Life's a ride, so let's make it count. Cherish every moment, that's what it's about. Tune in, together we're building our groove. Every beat, every laugh, we're ready to move. A little laughter, some love, we're soaring high. Every single episode reaching for the sky. News on the airwaves, spreading good vibes. Friends together, watch how our spirits rise. Kick back, unwind, leave the troubles behind. This podcast is gold, a treasure you'll find. With every word, we'll light up your day. Join the conversation, let's laugh all the way. A little laughter, some love, we're soaring high. Every single episode reaching for the sky. News on the airwaves, spreading good vibes. Friends together, watch how our spirits rise. Kick back, unwind, leave your troubles behind. This podcast is gold, a treasure you'll find. Life's a ride, so
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Afternoon, I should say. A little late. I had to take Mr. Caden to the doctor's today, so we're a little late today. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're all doing well today. It's great to see you again. Welcome, 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 welcome. Hope everybody had a great night last night. And I hope you're all having a great start to your Tuesday, April 15th already. Wow, it's going by fast. I can't believe Easter's up this weekend already. That's crazy. Come on down. Come on in. I don't know where Mama Bear is. I haven't seen her yet today. So I don't know what's going on. Oh, there she is. No, she's coming. Okay, finally. She was busy. Busy. We're always busy doing something. She'll be here. Let's see. Who else do we have? Under and over. Welcome back in Stitches. Great to see you. Miss Stormy Jane's in the house as always. Good to have you here. Mountain Mama in the house. Great to see you. A hoe named Ida. Good to see you. Bemmy Rose, thank you for joining us today. Phil is in the house. See if Phil can draw a laugh out of me today. Usually can. Pretty good. Brandy, oh my goodness. The OG Brandy. Good to see you today, dear. Thank you for joining us. And let me see here. I think I got everybody so far. Maybe. Bel Bariqua, welcome to you. Good to see you today. Butterfly Kisses, welcome back to you. Excuse me. Of course, always. Always. I don't know where the rest of the crew is, but okay. And Eddie's in the house. One made not. Welcome back, buddy. Good to see you today. We missed you last night. Great to have you here, though. Let me see. Yep, I had to take the child to the doctor's this morning. Beforehand, I was watching this new show I kind of got stuck on. What the hell? The Bondsman with Kevin Bacon. It's a little wild. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. Alicia's busy today. Okay. I didn't know. Let's see. Everybody deserted me today, I guess. Okay. It's all good. Let me see. Busy, busy, busy. Got 19 peeps in the house. 14 likes. Come on, guys. Let's make it match. Share this out if you will. Please and thank you. Well, there's Alicia there. Okay. If you're busy, ma'am, you're busy. I understood. I didn't see it though. My apologies. I don't ever get in Discord often unless I'm in there with them. I probably should, I guess. I didn't see much. Hope Tomboy's feeling better today. Oh Lord. I'm sorry, Alicia. Jesus. I was asleep by then. I think. My apologies and condolences, man. Groot, welcome back to you. Yeah, when I logged out of here last night, I went in there and did what I was supposed to do. And next thing I know, we're on the couch watching a movie and I was sound asleep. So I didn't get to look at Discord anymore. And I didn't even look at it this morning because I had to get up, get ready to get him to the doctors and stuff. So I wasn't even paying attention to anything. Trish Crow, good to see you. Hope everybody else is doing okay. Tomboy, I hope she's okay. And just her being Cassie, I hope everybody's good. I get nervous when I don't see people worried about them. But again, my condolences and deepest apologies, Alicia. Come on down. Vin Sanity, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Come on in, guys. Grab a seat, if you will. It looks pretty. It's really actually pretty good, Stormy. You probably would like it. It's a little different. I was surprised. Kind of reminds me of like a generic Supernatural. If that makes sense. With one person instead of the two brothers. It's just one Kevin Bacon. Hello, Leslie and Billy. Wonderful to see you. Thank you for joining us. Come on in, guys. Grab a chair. Grab your coffee. Get comfortable, please, and thank you. Mm. Well, thank you already for the super sticker, Leslie and Billy. Appreciate that very much. God bless. It's very generous of you. Yeah. Yeah, he's a demon bounty hunter. It's pretty wild. There's some comedic parts to it too. It's not too bad. Something to watch until I can find something better. Wonderful to see you, Miss Churish. 32 peeps in the house with 21 legs. Good Lord. I swear to God, we're going to have a tornado come through here. This wind's blowing like crazy today. If I disappear, you know why. Come on in, y'all. Good to hear, Trish. All right, let's see here. Again, I hope you're all having a great day today so far. Just checking up on everything. Some wild stuff in the news today, that's for sure. That is faux show. Definitely some interesting stuff to talk about. Get us caught up in the world today. Good Lord. Hmm. Yeah, let's see. Oh, there's Cassie. Hello, Miss Cass. It's okay. No worries. Noel, welcome to you. Great to see you today. Kane B's in the house. What's going on? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us today. All y'all, appreciate you very much. All right, I think we got 41 peeps in the house, guys, and it looks like, hold on, 24 likes. Let's see if we can catch that up, guys, and make it match just a little. If you could, please and thank you. I appreciate you very much. All right, all right, all right. Let's see what crazy stuff is going on out here. Oh yeah, this is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess we'll start off with this. This is a pretty wild story, go. I didn't even hear about this until it was brought in. See what y'all think of this. We got some stuff. We're looking a little bit at everything, some news stuff, some Coburger stuff, some whatever stuff. So we're looking around all over the place. All right, all right.
Now to a Wisconsin teenager accused of killing his parents to fund an alleged plot to kill President Trump. ABC's Christian Cordero joins with the latest. Good morning to you.
Hey, well, good morning. So many questions with this one. According to the warrant, a grandparent and a school resource officer called for a welfare check. It had been about 2 weeks since anyone saw the teen or his parents. This morning, newly unsealed court documents allege this Wisconsin teenager, Nikita Kasab, killed his parents as part of a larger plot to assassinate the president and attempt to overthrow the U.S. government. Kasab's mother, Tatiana, and stepfather, Donald Mayer, were found shot and killed in their Waukesha home during a welfare check in late February.
What's up, Mikey? Good to see you, brother. Thank you for joining us. The last 24's in the house, guys. Appreciate you being here, bud.
The body was appeared to have been deceased for some time, was unable to definitively identify who it was.
Investigators say the 17-year-old Kasab killed them to obtain the financial means and autonomy necessary to carry out his plan. Officials add they found material on the suspect's phone related to a neo-Nazi group described by the FBI as a satanic cult. They also say they discovered a 3-page document allegedly written by Kasab calling for the start of a revolution to quote.
This reminds me of that girl that we did a couple months back. Remember that girl we covered that was going to, that was a thwarted mass shooting. She was going to commit, and they stopped it, and it had the same type basis behind it with this neo-Nazi thing. There's a lot of this going on out here. This is crazy, and I gotta wonder: is this some kind of a sleeper cell or something that they're throwing kids in out here with? I mean, this is a little crazy, folks. Willie Willard's in the house. Good to see you, brother. Good to have you here, bro. Yeah, this is nuts, folks.
Quote, save the white race. The documents allege Kassab paid, at least in part, for a drone and explosives, and that other parties knew of Kassab's plan, adding some even offered advice and assistance. Kassab was arrested in Kansas after police say he drove through a stop sign in his parents' car.
Kassab is in custody on a $1 million bond. He has not yet entered a plea, Gio, and is scheduled to be arraigned in May. Gio.
Okay, all right, Christian, thank you so much.
This kid looks like he's 12. Are you kidding me? Wow. Seriously. Unbelievable. He killed his own parents just so he could fund trying to assassinate the president. And then some. It's getting deep, bro. It is getting deep out there. I think there's another. Hold on a minute. Here we go. Here's the story. I just wanted to show you the news break and then the actual story on it. Hey, Tomboy, the bird is in the house.
Of what the FBI found on the phone of a 17-year-old accused of killing his parents in Wisconsin. His dark conversations with shady online figures painting an alleged motive. Kill his parents to get the money needed to kill President Trump, overthrow the U.S. government, and commit violent terror attacks across the U.S. We're diving into the dozens of pages from the FBI that were just unsealed, showing a dark and twisted online world of white supremacy, racism, and what could have been plans to allegedly kill more than just members of his family had he not been arrested. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. The story of Nikita Kassab has taken so many turns since his parents were first found dead on February 28th. He was arrested states away in Kansas, allegedly driving his dad's stolen vehicle. But a newly unsealed 35-page federal search warrant may be the development that has shocked us the most since we started following this story. This is Nikita Kassab. You can see him in custody here in his hometown of Waukesha, Wisconsin. This is video from his most recent court appearance last week. He is currently facing 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of hiding a corpse, among other charges. His mom, Tatiana, and his stepdad, Don Mayer, were found shot dead inside their home on February 28th. Deputies say their bodies were covered in blankets. Don's mom had called police to do a wellness check because she hadn't heard from him in weeks. She lives in Massachusetts. A resource officer at Nikita's high school also said that he had been out of class for 2 weeks, and up until that point,
This kid's 17 years old. He's got a plan to do all this. I mean, this is insane. These kids are going way too far these days with this crazy shit. Really, really are.
school year, he had perfect attendance. Nikita was nowhere to be found. A neighbor said that he saw the teen drive off in his stepdad's VW Atlas 5 days prior. Then this story takes us on a shocking journey to get us to where we are right now. The authorities ping Nikita's parents' phones, and they show up in Laramie, Wyoming. That is nearly a 15-hour drive from Wisconsin. Then Nikita Kassab's phone was pinged, and it showed up at the world's largest truck stop. That is in Iowa. It's more than 11 hours from Laramie. Kassab was arrested in the tiny town of Waukene, Kansas. Here he is making his first appearance before he was sent back to Wisconsin to face charges.
Is your last name pronounced Kassab?
Kassab.
Kasap? Okay.
He was allegedly driving his dad's VW Atlas, and police say in plain sight was his dad's .357 Smith & Wesson handgun with ammunition. Police.
This kills me. This kid looks like he just got out of diapers, you guys. Seriously. I'm sorry about the echo. What's up, Brian? And this is his goal. These are his goals. This is insane.
Then find electronics in the car, including a camera with an SD card. Police say on that SD card were videos of Nikita Kasap lighting candles around his stepdad's dead body at their home in Waukesha, seemingly to cover the scent as it laid there for days. Police think Don and Tatiana were killed on February 11th, meaning Nikita likely lived in that house with his parents' dead bodies for nearly 2 weeks until the neighbor saw him leave.
All right, hold on. I think I know why the echo. Should be all right now.
On February 23rd. In the recorded video, police say Nikita also seemed to be holding a phone up to Don's body to show someone what he had allegedly done. Let's get to this newly unsealed federal search warrant, because this story seems now to be far more than allegedly a sad and shocking case of family violence. We've learned that Kasap allegedly killed his parents to get the financial means to kill President Trump, overthrow the US government, and to commit several terrorist attacks. And let's show you what not only just sheriff's deputies in Waukesha, Wisconsin found, but the FBI. The Waukesha County Sheriff's Office looked through Kasap's phone and reportedly found disturbing conversations, some of them in Russian. Some are with people on TikTok, and others on the platform Telegram. That bills itself as a place for free speech, but it is controversial because of the alleged criminal activity that can be on it. The FBI says Kasap had material on his phone related to the Order of the Nine Angles, which the agency says is a network of people with neo-Nazi, racially motivated extremist views. 09A advocates for the use of violence and terrorism to overthrow governments and destroy modern civilization. This is a law and crime legal alert. Did you know that children under 21 are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? February 14th and 24th, that was the days after Kasap allegedly killed his parents, he was living with the bodies in the house. And he had messages on Telegram in Russian that said, quote, reply to them all and say you got sick. And another message that said, drag them to the basement. Now, this lines up with what we've learned in our previous reporting on this story through court documents released through the state of Wisconsin. Part of the reason that Don's mom called to have a wellness check done was because of messages she said that she found weird from her son's phone on February 23rd. Also, Don's boss got text messages on February 13th and 25th that Don said he was sick and couldn't talk on the phone. Those are dates after when police say Nikita allegedly killed his parents. Another shocking part of this that we weren't expecting is that allegedly the FBI had already spoken to the Kasap family in November 2023. The document states that federal agents talked to the Kasap family in November 2023, but it's unclear specifically what brought agents to their home. In the newly unsealed document, agents say that Nikita Kasap, who went by the username Awoken on TikTok, had conversations with someone else about the racist ideology, the Order of the Nine Angles, which is also known as 09A. Now, this was in December of last year, roughly 2 months before his parents were murdered. He tells another user that he talked to a girl about that ideology and she was, quote, pretty chill about it. And he said if his parents were to find out, quote, they would take away my phone away if they did, especially since the FBI visited, LOL. We don't know specifically who Nikita Kasap was allegedly talking to on TikTok for those conversations. And again, there's still a lot of specifics we need to find out about why the FBI went to the Kasap house in November 2023. Authorities also found that Kasap talked on Telegram under the username Accelerationist, and on January 21st, which is less than a month before his parents were killed, he was allegedly talking with someone about a terror attack, asking, quote, what country do you think will get the blame for this? With an unknown user replying, Russia will be blamed for it. This is the goal. Nikita then allegedly goes on to say, quote, when the time comes for me to send my manifesto to you so you can spread it online, should it be PDF? And also you won't anyhow change or modify the manifesto. The FBI says they did find a manifesto. It's 3 pages long and talks about killing the president of the United States and creating a political revolution and to, quote, save the white race from, quote, Jewish-controlled politicians, with the final page having images and words praising Adolf Hitler. The FBI only included excerpts of the document, but Kassab allegedly seems very focused on President Trump. Quote, as to why specifically Trump, I think it's obvious. By getting rid of the president and perhaps the vice president, that is guaranteed to bring in some chaos. And not only that, but it will further bring into the public the idea that assassinations and accelerating the collapse are possible things to do. Kassab.
It's obvious that there is a much more powerful force behind this that he was relating to that are staying hidden. And of course, they're going to let him take the fall and the blame for it. They're not going to come forth. They're not going to find them. They're buried. This is what they do so that they don't have to take any of the hits for it. Okay. And then these kids are taking all this bullshit because they're brainwashing these kids into believing these things. And they know that they're susceptible to that kind of stuff. And then when it doesn't per se happen, the other people disappear for a while until they can get somebody else involved. You know what I mean? It's so crazy. It's absolutely insane. And guys, we had a girl that we covered a couple months back that was planning a mass shooting at their high school, and it was based on the same type of a neo-Nazi type background that she was involved in too. They never can find the base group that these kids are affiliated with. The kids end up taking the hit for it, and on they go to move on to somebody else. I got to wonder how many of these kids are out there that they have in their clutches per se. You know what I'm saying? This is nuts. It's all internet based. It's all internet based. It's insane to me. Just like the dude who shot Trump. We still don't know why. Shit, right. Yeah. Okay. Go back a little bit further. Good point, Willie. Go back further. Remember the kid that cut his father's head off? Remember that? There's been these things happening little by little by little by little. It's this stupid internet bullshit. That's where all this is coming from. It's crazy. Kane said they had a big camp for this stuff here in Port Richey. See? 17 years old, guys. Yeah. This is just, it's getting scary. It is getting really scary. Please keep an eye on who your kids are talking to online. Please focus and pay attention to it. You never know. You just never know.
Would later allegedly write, quote, as a side note, the other attacks that may occur, I have no idea what they are, who they target. I have no idea even if they are same ideology as I. Point being, the manifesto is specifically for the attack that.
Exactly. Every other day, we got a plane or a helicopter crash that we're seeing happen now. Welcome, Michelle. The whole world is just in turmoil, folks. Every bit of it. Every bit of it.
Targets Trump. When Kassab was arrested in Kansas, not only did police say that they found the gun, the ammunition that was allegedly used to kill his parents, and that camera that had that SD card. Police say he also had a pried open safe, women's jewelry, and $14,000 in cash, as well as banking documents. It appears that Kassab allegedly wanted to use that money, which he was able to obtain by allegedly killing his parents, to buy a drone that he would use in a terror attack. In another Telegram conversation, Kassab speaks with user Angel of Death about a drone with a dropping mechanism. Kassab allegedly asks about caring for a drone, and the user tells him that the amount would cost between $1,200 and $1,500. They also allegedly talk about an IED, or improvised explosive device. Kassab also allegedly asked for headphones that could protect his ears from the sound of a .357 Magnum. That is the gun he allegedly used to kill his mom and stepdad inside their home in Wisconsin. It is important to note that Kassab allegedly talks about paying in Bitcoin because in previous court appearances, state prosecutors have said that he stopped at a Bitcoin vending machine on his multi-state drive after allegedly killing his parents. The reason that Nikita drove west after allegedly killing his parents also seems to have come from orders that it appears he received from some user on Telegram. Kassab allegedly spoke with someone who writes in an Eastern European dialect that gave him coordinates to drive from southwest Wyoming through Kansas to a location near Oklahoma. And Kassab allegedly asked, quote, "Then from there to Eureka, California, it is 30 hours. You think I'll have enough time?" Kassab allegedly asked questions like, "How long will I need to hide before I will be moved to Ukraine? Also, I probably should brush up on my Russian because I can understand just fine, but speaking is harder. And so while in Ukraine, I will get a normal job and have a normal life, even when it's found out I did it." He also asks, do the 10 other people have similar beliefs to I, or are they different? And there's a message that cuts off that says, assuming that my parents won't leave. We don't know how that message ends. But the 10 other people part is notable because the deputies in Wisconsin spoke with a female classmate of Kassab's at Waukesha West High School, where, just to note, he was once student of the month, who said Kassab told her about his alleged plans, saying that if they saw 10 consecutive attacks in the news, it would have been him. That witness also told authorities that Kassab would talk about being in contact with a man in Russia, about overthrowing the US government, and that he intended to kill his parents by shooting them but didn't have access to a gun. She then said Kassab regularly sent her videos of what he called gore edits that were videos with Russian music on Snapchat that flashed gory and war images. Prior to this newly released federal search warrant, we knew that Kassab allegedly talked to his classmate about a desire to kill President Trump and that he had an infatuation with fascism and Adolf Hitler. But this is the first time we are hearing that authorities believe that is the alleged motive in the deaths of Tatiana Kassab and his stepdad.
Well, thank you, Miss Stormy, for gifting those 5 memberships. I can't see who got it. Welcome, Got Me Stumped. Good to see you. Let's see. Tommy G's in the house. I can't see who got him right this moment, folks, but I will follow up with it soon. Thank you so much, Stormy. That's awesome and generous of you. God bless. Appreciate it very much.
Don Mayer. And it is the most detailed timeline to this point of the lengths that Kassab allegedly went to be part of what he at least thought was a large plan to commit mass terror in the United States. Joining us now is retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt. Thanks for being here on Law and Crime. There's a lot to unpack in these newly unsealed documents that came out showing what investigators know at this point about what Nikita Kassab is alleged to have done. You're the person, you're the expert on this. I mean, what stood out to you going through these new documents and what's come to light?
Well, I would just say that kind of the extent of the psychosis or how deeply violent this person is, and always kind of look, were there signs of this before he murdered his parents, or if that is indeed the case, as is he's alleged or he's accused of doing that, what led up to this? And then what is his obsession with President Trump? His level of violence and his level of hatred, there's got to be some sort of antecedent that prompted all of this nonsense, this craziness, frankly.
What do you know about Telegram? And I know he was talking on TikTok, which a lot of people know, and was sending some disturbing videos on Snapchat to a female classmate who he seemed to confide in a lot. But Telegram is where he seemed to have talked to some very shady people, some of them in.
Why in the hell would a 17-year-old kid care about? Since when did they care about the president and politics? This was something that was fed into this kid's brain over time, in my opinion. Like these kids have so many other things they could be worried about, not that. So somebody got a hold of this kid, brainwashed him, and this is where this come from, in my opinion. There's not any 17-year-old kid I could think of that would care too much about who the president is at all. Excuse me. Welcome, Amor. Good to see you. That's just my opinion, of course, but
in Russian. What do we know about that platform?
Well, that platform, I think recently, as of about 6 months ago, the FBI got involved with kind of taking it down or looking at the person who created it. And it's an app that a lot of fringe groups go on to, and they kind of push their agenda and their narrative through.
That sounds about right, Willie. It makes some sense for sure. I guess Under posted the new. Oh, okay. Thank you, Under and Over It. Let me see real quick. Brian's Ramblings, Crafty Mama 733, Need Some Z's, Gene Spratt, Isabel Just Z Rankin. Thank you so much for that, Under and Over. Congrats to you guys. Welcome to the sauce. And thank you again, Stormy. That was so very generous of you. Yeah, that's a good point, Willie, with that. Eddie says the mainstream media and even some legislators are complicit in spreading dangerous rhetoric, which leads to radical benefit. Good point. You guys are both on point with that. Yes. Yes. I gotta make that make sense.
Through this app, and it's very attractive because it does have that same encryption capability, but it's kind of gone mainstream with the fringe on either side of the political spectrum in terms of the things that are appearing on there. And frankly, I don't let my own children get on that app.
No, I mean, there is a lot in looking at this story. If you're a parent, that's just terrifying, whether it's of a young boy or a young girl, whoever it may be, because of it just seemed how deep he was into dark corners of the internet that a lot of us are typically not on. This Order of the Nine Angles, it's a neo-Nazi ideology that apparently he was very into. Do you know anything about that? How common is that type of ideology in your experience in dealing with these cases?
Well, last point on Telegram, it doesn't appear they have moderators. Like if you go on even TikTok or Twitter or the other ones, they have people who are actually watching, or algorithms watching for this fringe and violent behavior. And in terms of this neo-Nazi group, I did work skinhead neo-Nazi cases many years ago when I was in the FBI. And it's generally speaking, it's a lot of disenfranchised people who kind of coalesce around an idea of hate, and then they basically wind each other up with this constant banter of hating a particular group or a particular religion, and that gives them their sort of shared purpose.
And it seemed like, the term radicalization comes to mind as I was reading through some of the conversations he was having. I was thinking of the cases where we've seen an ISIS-inspired attack where young man gets in touch with someone who they don't know personally on social media, who then gets them to commit this attack. It seems very similar, though a different type of ideology. What did you see as you looked at some of the conversations that Nikita Kasap was allegedly having with people, in some cases in Russian, on social media?
Well, generally speaking, these groups somebody in this group will kind of rise above and will be kind of the antecedent, the person that's kind of initiating a lot of this conversation, and for lack of a better term, the leader on the chat. And then that's the person that's generally radicalizing the other people that are jumping on the chat, or there might be 2 or 3 people that are kind of in that role, or they're sharing that role. And then the fact that this is being done with Russian speakers or in Russia, they may be some sort of a state actor behind this, or something else that's trying to kind of foster discontent and chaos in the United States. I doubt it, though. It just sounds like Russia has the same problems that we have in terms of disenfranchised youth that have no purpose. So the point of this is, I think he was the one, certainly had the weakest mind, but he had the greatest means to kind of carry.
Welcome, SRBB, Demon Dog. Good to see you. Miss Wisdom Speaks is in the house. Good to have you here. Thank you all for joining us.
Carry out violence in support of this ideology.
How likely is it that we'll find out who he was talking to on Telegram?
Well, I believe that they'll be able to kind of get to the bottom of it. But the problem with Telegram is it is a worldwide app, and many people use VPNs, virtual private networks, or they're going to coffee houses or going to all these other places. So it ends up being a real digital whodunit.
I would think that with the power that the FBI and CIA have, per se, that they could probably scare this kid into giving. Well, then again, here's the thing, is the kid probably has no idea who he's talking to. He probably doesn't even know. They're smart enough to do that and hide that from him. So he can't give them up. Do you know what I'm saying? But they're probably going to scare this kid to death. and he's probably going away for a while, folks, because this ain't no joke. So it should be interesting. I'll say that.
Done it to kind of get to the source of the information, or they're using other kind of proxy servers to kind of hide who they are. This is the same problem that they're having with swatting when the swatting comes from a foreign country to a person in the United States, is getting to the root of the problem. Now, if the whole thing was in the United States, I'm quite confident the FBI could find where it originated from, but it appears that most of this is happening overseas. So there may be many dead ends.
In your experience, how does someone, a young kid like this, 17 years old, and apparently for a couple of years, he was having these very disturbing conversations online, allegedly. How does it start for a lot of these people where if you're a parent, you give your kid a phone, they have access to the computer thinking that they're going to play some video game, and then eventually they're down the line communicating with someone overseas about a terrorist attack and actually getting him allegedly to buy a drone, go to these lengths. I mean, even allegedly kill his own parents, which this story just seems so bizarre in that way. But we know that these types of cases have happened in the past.
Well, I think a couple of different ways, just speculating though, the people who are behind this group, they're probably trolling the internet for people like himself that are out there looking for this kind of information, and they might put something in the water in terms of their ideology and then see if they get any bites. And then once that person gets a bite, or once that person kind of starts to interact, then they start grooming them and talking to them and basically making them feel like somebody cares.
It's not known yet, Amor. I would wonder. It's interesting. That's an interesting question. Very, very interesting question. But if nothing else, he probably should be if he's not. I'll just say that much.
And somebody is interested in what they have to say, and then it continues to escalate until we get to the point of violence, or law enforcement or the parents find out about it and stop it.
Seemed like at the state level that there's a very strong case, very serious charges where he's accused of shooting and killing both his parents. He was arrested in Kansas. The gun that was allegedly used in those shootings was found in the vehicle. Seems like there's a strong case there for the state. When you look at what the FBI and local deputies as well, and going through the electronic devices and what charges could he face at a federal level, and how strong is the evidence that it appears that federal authorities could have in that situation?
Well, without having the whole case in front of me, I'd certainly speculating, but it sounds like they have all the chats and all of the, and maybe even have a statement from him where he described what he was doing or wanted to do, or his intent. They could charge him with weapons of mass destruction, conspiracy to kill the president, as well as they could actually federalize the fact that he went over state lines, depending on who or what was behind his intent to kill his parents. So he's definitely going to be seeing a very long time in prison. But even more importantly, the biggest reason why the FBI is involved is to determine if there's anybody else behind this, especially somebody local or in the United States that has the means to do this. Because when you start talking about drones and aerial assaults, then obviously that gets the attention of not only the FBI, but the Secret Service and even the military, because their number one job is to protect the president and the United States.
Of course, President Trump, 2 attempts on his life before he took office for a second term. Many people will never forget Butler, Pennsylvania, specifically, and what happened there. Knowing that this was a 17-year-old who, ends up driving to Kansas. How does the FBI, knowing that these types of conversations unfortunately happen a lot on places like Telegram, know which ones are the specific person who's going to go to a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania and try to take a shot on the president, or someone who in high school just has what they believe is an incredibly twisted sense of humor or interest, and it's something that's just words?
Well, and you hit the nail on the head. Is it just words? That you really don't know you can't read people's minds. All you can do is rely on their own speech and behaviors, and then what they've said to the people around them. So when somebody does put something crazy, frankly, out on the internet. The FBI is very aggressive in going out and, number one, interviewing the person who did it, interview the people around, and then perhaps go to their house if they have a probable cause, and the authority search the house, see if they have the means to do the things that they put out on the internet. And then most importantly is to get that person either prosecuted or get some sort of mental health intervention so they don't harm themselves or somebody else.
Are we seeing more of these cases, or is it a situation where, because in the world of social media, you're almost able to detect more of these types of ideologies of spreading, because then you can
Welcome,
tie it to
Nelly.
a defendant like they apparently are in this case?
Well, I think you're seeing more of it because there's a mitigated or minimized social friction. When I say that, it's much easier to communicate online with strangers. You know, like I tell my kids, and everybody says, don't talk to strangers. Well, people are talking to strangers all the time on the internet. And really, the American youth, or the youth in the world, is kind of programmed to kind of interact on the internet. And that sets up a opportunity for these bad actors to manipulate these kids because they're not very sophisticated. So I think it's the problem is amplified by social media in a sense that you're hearing more about it, but it's also amplified because there's so little friction in terms of social friction and giving these kids opportunities to communicate with bad people.
Yeah, and look, this isn't a political show, and I certainly don't want to, like have it go in that direction. But just when you look at him targeting President Trump, and then apparently he was talking to someone in Ukraine about blaming Russia for what was going to happen, and then it's a neo-Nazi, ideology, and then it's a pro Adolf Hitler. I mean, it just seems like it is just, how do you, when you deal with these cases, how do people make sense of this political ideology? Because it seems like when you try to think about how someone goes down this path, it's on a completely different universe than what typical political discussions are in the day-to-day between normal people.
Well, I think it's kind of a greater issue where, with lack of a better term, you have politicians that are influencers. They influence the public, and everybody needs to bring the rhetoric down or be careful about what they're saying, because unfortunately there are quite a few people out there with deep-rooted mental health issues. And depending on what somebody may or may not say, or how they're saying it, that might be the spark to get this person to take it to the next level. So it just makes the law enforcement's job much harder when they have to go out and follow up on these things, because there's so many issues like this. And so to your question, though, it comes down to everybody has to kind of just bring it down a notch, and also see something, say something. If somebody is acting erratically or doing something that you would be concerned about in terms of harming themselves or somebody else, make sure the authorities are aware of it.
And I know it would be speculation, but there was part in the document that said the FBI had spoke to the family in November 2023. It's not really clear what they were talking about at that point, but just generally speaking, how common is it for the FBI to talk to a family, to have those conversations if they believe that something disturbing was happening in school? Apparently, he had discussions with a witness, a woman who's been identified as a witness, a female classmate. But I guess, how common is it for the FBI to be having those conversations with students, finding nothing, and then continuing on?
Well, it comes out there's a credible complaint, and it goes in terms of this type of behavior. Generally, the FBI will go out with local law enforcement and find out, is there any substance to the complaint? People also got to remember, it's not a magic pill or there's some sort of magic here. There is probable cause. There is the Constitution. You can't just, go out there. The FBI is not the office of pre-crime and be able to predict things that are going to happen in the future. And then they have to do a investigation to determine if this person has the intent and the means to go ahead and harm somebody. So to once again, answer your question, how common is it? I mean, I can't really say. It comes down to, if the complaint is out there, the FBI will follow up on it, but there's only so much they can do.
And just lastly, we talk about, the mental health issues, and, this was a young man who, up until this point in the school year that he disappeared after allegedly killing his parents, he had perfect attendance. He was a student of the month back in 2022. Seemed like on the surface that this is a kid who was what you would expect a kid at 17 years old to be, who goes to a public school outside of Milwaukee. But we do see these cases, and there's kind of this growing stereotype of the young man who is able to become radicalized, no matter what the influence may be. What is it about kind of young teens that makes them vulnerable to situations like this, where this clearly could have been a lot worse had he not been arrested?
Well, as a father of young teens, it comes down to two different things: access to the internet and isolation. So if you have a child that's in his room right after school until he goes to bed, and all he is playing on the internet that you think of, and you're not monitoring what he's doing or his communications, and he's isolating himself from other people, from actual social interaction where he actually sees people, then that's the time for somebody to kind of pay attention and say, okay, who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Why are you talking about this? And
what didn't you realize, Angel? What's the matter? What did I miss? What's going on? What happened in here? Somebody? Anybody? No, he's not blocked. I spoke to him. Who left? That is one of the problems, Ben. Big problem. Thank you, Wisdom. Angel? Oh, okay. Did Angel bring some kind of drama in here? Willie's not blocked. Okay.
And frankly, get off the computer and get out there. And as my kids say, put some grass under your feet and get some fresh air and some sunshine and interact with people out in the real world and stop all this internet nonsense.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because this is a story. We'll see how it plays out. It is.
Okay, I see it now. I get it now.
Is there a possibility that the entire, I guess, how does this work out legally now, knowing that the FBI is involved, that there are serious charges if he would be facing, a federal charge of a threat on the president's life, but then also at the state level is facing these charges of allegedly killing his parents?
Well, that'll be where the federal prosecutors and the state prosecutors will work out how they want to proceed. Generally speaking, the murder is going to take precedence, or the murder is going to take precedence. And then if he is found guilty of that, and then the FBI or the U.S. Attorney's Office or the federal criminal justice system will take over, and then he would be prosecuted on the federal charges. But he's going to end up doing his time in state court, and unless there's some sort of deal or some sort of reason to put him in federal prison. But once again, it's going to be something that's worked out between the federal and state prosecutors.
All right, retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt, always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Kasap is currently being held on $1 million bond for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime.
He ain't going to post that, and nobody's going to do it for him, so. So this is what our youth has come to at this point, trying to plot to remove the president. I mean, this is and cause world chaos. I mean, what the hell? Unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. Let me see here. Oh, yes. For anybody that didn't know this, show you this update real quick.
Just 6 for a jury in Connecticut to find a man guilty of 2 murders. 6 minutes for 2 murders, even though there was no DNA, there were no fingerprints, they never found a murder weapon, and there was not a scrap of video of the crime. 6 minutes for 12 people to get into a jury room and make up their minds and then come back to the court with 2 guilty verdicts. That might be a record. That was back in 2010 after Marquise Hill murdered 2 people execution style outside of a nightclub, and 5 people said they saw him do it. Case closed. In contrast, no one saw Rachel Morin's killer violently take her life on a jogging trail in Maryland. No one saw him rape her and violently strangle her before bashing her head in with a rock. No one saw that killer drag Rachel for 150 feet, leaving a trail of blood all the way to the filthy drainage culvert where that killer dumped her body. But there seemed to be little question about who did it today in a Maryland courtroom, because a jury took just 46 minutes to say Victor Martinez Hernandez, an undocumented immigrant from El Salvador, was that vicious killer on the Ma and Pa Trail 2 years ago. 46 minutes. Guilty on 4 counts against him. My guess, he is never going to get out of prison. And if Maryland were a death penalty state, which it is not, I am also guessing that he would be a perfect candidate for the needle, the chair, or the firing squad. But again, it is not, and he is not. Victor Martinez Hernandez, however, will forever be known as the man who took Rachel Morin's life, a mother of 5, who was just out for a run in August of 2023. Guilty of first-degree murder, first-degree rape, third-degree sex offense, and kidnapping for good measure. The case, just 9 days long, was so violent, so cruel, and so graphic, we could not air most of it. The killer had no alibi, and the killer lied non-stop. But most importantly, the killer's DNA was found on Rachel, around Rachel, and inside Rachel. After all, this was a rape before a killing. It goes without saying his defense attorney did not have a whole lot to work with, except, to hopelessly point fingers at others. Oh, look over there, Rachel's boyfriend. The one and only witness that they called was a digital forensic analyst, because they tried to suggest that Rachel's Google searches might have pointed to a jilted lover. It did not work. Defense put on a 10-minute case. Rachel's boyfriend cooperated with the police from the beginning. He was never considered a suspect. Let's compare and contrast, shall we, with Victor Martinez Hernandez, who, when finally caught last year in Oklahoma, of all places, denied up and down ever knowing anybody named Rachel Morin. Nah, never heard of her, never seen her, don't know her, never been there. Never even been to Maryland, he said, never been there. Again, his DNA was all over the crime scene and all over Rachel. By the way, here he is being interrogated by the detectives with a little help from an interpreter.
Pero ¿cómo aseguran que yo fui? Well, how can you be sure it's me? Through DNA. Por la evidencia que tenemos. Solo por el ADN. Sí. Si es el ADN, cualquiera se lo puede ganar a uno y hacer daño. Not in the way that it was left. No en la manera.
Yeah, it's like, that's what you call in a corner, figuratively and literally. He just kept on denying everything. Everything. Never been to Maryland. But cell phone data and security video and his own family said otherwise. As far as Maryland was concerned, oh, he'd been there. Actually, he'd lived there, and he had worked there at a local Popeyes. He even stayed.
I wish she would just stop with the theatrics and tell the damn story. She's so irritating.
With relatives there, relatives he later claimed didn't exist. You may also remember that months before the Maryland attack, this thing happened. He allegedly assaulted a child and her mother in their home in Los Angeles. But that attack did not even come up in court, even though it was his DNA found that attack didn't even come up. Nor did the politics surrounding his unlawful presence in the United States of America. That's important. The politics, the mention of that case, and that did not come up. When the verdict was read, Rachel Morin's mother hugged the prosecutor. But this killer, he didn't show any emotion, nothing, stone cold, before being cuffed and escorted out of the courtroom. I am joined now by the attorney for Rachel Morin's family, Randolph Rice. Mr. Rice, thank you for coming back. It's been very helpful to talk to you through this process, as I can imagine that this has just been so overwhelming for Rachel's family. Take me to the moment where you learned 46 minutes into deliberations that there was a verdict.
Yeah, Ashley, thanks for having me on. And I think you gave a really good overview of this case. You know, I think they probably were looking for a pen just to fill out the jury sheet,
Eddie,
because it was quick. We were all.
She takes it right to that line and then she backs off. She's so aggravating to me. I really, if I didn't deal with the news stuff, I wouldn't. But they give interesting stories at times. They could definitely use somebody else besides her, though.
All settled in for maybe a couple of hours, but when you have a verdict come back that quick, the general rule says it's not good for the defendant. And certainly that proved true today when they came back out and read off that jury sheet and said guilty on all the top counts and really just sealed his fate.
So what was the reaction of your clients, Rachel's mom, Patty, and the rest of her family?
Yeah. Patty was tearing up, obviously. I think that this was somewhat of a relief. I think this had been a long 19 months. And while certainly this doesn't change the fact that Rachel's still dead and they're, obviously never going to see her again, it is maybe a hurdle they've sort of overcome, getting this conviction, now knowing that this man can never hurt another woman like Rachel Morin again.
Not that we expected Victor Martinez Hernandez's demeanor to change from the way it has been all throughout this case, stone cold, when horrifying photographs were paraded across the screens, as they have to be in these cases. But what about the moment where he learned that the guilty verdicts, as he knows, will likely mean he will never get out of prison?
Yeah, he has been consistent this whole trial with showing very little emotion. During the trial, he was taking notes. He occasionally looked up at videos. But when they read the verdict, it was just like, no big deal. Stone cold face, like you said in the open. It just was not registering what had just happened to him.
So when they let him out of court, that's really a moment where oftentimes, and you tell me, victims' family members feel at ease. Because if the killer is there in your presence, you can be relieved, but you really can't feel the weight of your life maybe returning to some semblance of what it was. Tell me a little bit about Patty, the things that she said afterwards, and how she's doing tonight, the mom.
Yeah, she's exhausted, really. Because this has been a long trial. I think the emotional exhaustion sort of taken a toll on her. When they handcuffed him, almost in a symbolic way, because they typically lead him in and out of the courtroom without handcuffs. But that moment that the deputies all handcuffed him and then led him out of the courtroom really had an effect on the entire courtroom. And the entire courtroom stuck around. Usually people would leave, but I think everybody actually wanted to see him have those handcuffs placed on him. And then Patty went around and hugged all of the detectives, all the investigators, thanking them. The FBI agents were there. The HSI agent was there, and just thanking them for all the work that they had done.
We run the morning show every day, Ben, just about. We do different things with it, cold case and coffee, and just in between days, we cover a little bit of everything to bring everybody up to date on everything going on out there in the world. So, yes.
Done in this case.
Did anybody show up for him? Did he have one family member, one friend, anybody, a supporter?
Well, they had the family members there that were testifying against him in the first couple of days, saying, oh, yeah, he's been in Maryland, all right. We saw him because he was living on our couch, and they identified him. And in fact, one of the male family members was not too happy staring him down, knowing that a rapist and a killer was living in his house with his wife and daughter.
I'll bet. And did anyone show up for that verdict?
We didn't see anybody from the family there, no. And we understand that the girlfriend and the baby are still in El Salvador, so there's no family here that would. And look, he's burned every bridge, actually. I mean, from the testimony is he would just sort of bounce around until the family members got sick of him being there. He wasn't paying for things. He was causing a ruckus, and they just kick him out.
Sounds about right. Let me ask you, because when you say El Salvador, that tweaks for a lot of people because, you know, the news has been showing a lot of images of, I think it's called CICOT, the terrorism confinement center in El Salvador. It's that place where all those prisoners are dressed in white shorts, often bare-chested, with their tattoos showing, being marched, you know, with their heads shoved down. We've seen these images nonstop. It's basically a contracted prison in El Salvador that the Americans are putting all of the ICE detainees when they're flying them out of the country. Those are federal processes. This is a state process. But is there any chance that a guy like Victor Hernandez is going to end up?
I'm going to tell you, and I'm not trying to be, what's the word I'm going to say? Let me think of the right way to put this. I'm tired of people coming into our country, doing whatever they want to our people, and being given whatever they want or need to live better lives than we do. I'm not going political. I'm going to leave it at what I just said. All I'm telling you is I'm sick and tired of seeing it. And I hope that when this piece of garbage goes to prison, that they destroy him piece by piece by piece for what he did. And I know that sounds rough. And I'm not that type of a person normally, folks, but I'm so tired of seeing shit like this. This was absolutely one of the most disgusting cases I've ever seen in my life. And I'm over it. I'm over it. I really am. Everybody knows that knows me, that the shit that I've gone through. I was a civil servant, and I'm struggling to try to get through the disability bullshit, okay? And it's been a struggle, and I'm still struggling with it. But those people that will come into this country that are just handed whatever the fuck they want and say, go live a life, enjoy it, you know? And we have people that come in here the right way, that want to be Americans, that do the right thing, and it makes them look bad. And it's a horrible situation because sometimes people don't know who's who, okay? That's the problem. And that's what these people are doing. Just like we've heard, it takes one bad apple to make the whole basket look rotten. And that's what's happening, guys, and it's absolute bullshit. So I'm over it. I'm over it, okay? I served my state, my county, my city, and helped as a life-saving first responder, and have to struggle to receive a disability because I got hurt doing those things. And then we have these people that are doing this. And then when they get the things they want, they come in here, they do whatever they want, and they're killing our people. That's not okay with me anymore. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not going to ramble on about it. I'm not going political because we don't do that here. I just needed to make that statement. That's all.
Being shipped out of American prisons and into this place?
Well, as you mentioned, it's probably a safe bet that he's going to receive life without parole, which means he'll spend the rest of his life in a Maryland.
Take care, Vin. Thank you for joining us. I hope to see you again. Have a great day, my friend.
Department of Corrections somewhere either on the eastern shore or the western shore of Maryland. I can tell you they're not very nice places to be. So he will probably die in a Maryland Department of Corrections facility.
I mean, listen, everything's kind of upside down these days with process. I mean, there's a lot of challenges going on to the Trump administration's efforts, whether you like them or hate them. And I just wondered if it would be possible if the federal government would appeal to the Maryland state government and the penal system to try to extract a guy like that, just to make a show of it, to send him down to where not only, listen, Maryland prisons may not be great, but that prison you
That's exactly my point, Alicia. 100%. That's absolutely it. Thank you for making that statement, because that's part of it. Like I said, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. And they're not even doing the wrong thing. They're doing good things for the country. They're becoming American citizens the right way. And then these people are doing that because people don't know the difference sometimes. They just don't, you know? It's kind of bullshit to me. I'm sorry.
don't see the light of day and you're not allowed visitors ever.
You know, that's an interesting question. And I've had a lot of people ask me that. Do you think that he could get shipped off? And the answer is you never know. I mean, certainly a possibility that they somehow say, hey, look, we want to get this guy out of here. But there could be that worry that, maybe he gets out of there, he somehow comes across the border and we don't have control over him. If we know he's in a Department of Corrections facility in Maryland, we know that he's not going to be able to hurt anybody like a Rachel Morin again.
Well, that makes sense for anybody who's watching, thinking, ship him out, send him to the horrible place. You're only as good as the leader of that country in terms of security of that prison. And if there's any falling out between America and El Salvador, who knows what happens to those who America has asked them to guard. So it's a good point to make. Sentencing. Let's talk about sentencing. I don't actually know the date, the plan, what's scheduled, or is anything scheduled yet?
Nothing's scheduled yet. The court today ordered what's called a pre-sentence investigation, where they'll go in and just get background information about him. And they also ordered a psychiatric and a sexual.
There it is. He was deported once and returned. There's a problem. Okay. There's a problem. It's happening again. That happens more than it doesn't, too, by the way. What Wisdom just said, that people are getting deported, they come back. It's got to stop.
Evaluation as well. Those reports typically take about 60 to 90 days to be done. So we're guessing that probably somewhere around the 90-day period, sentencing will happen. And that's where the judge will have the opportunity to give him that life without parole.
And that is the problem right there. It's too easy to get back in illegally. They make it damn near impossible for people to do it the legal way, but illegally, it's stupid easy. That's the problem. So, if you can do it the legal way, they made it easier on those people. There wouldn't be so much of the illegal. Okay, just saying. Right there, exactly. My best friend's husband's from Venezuela. He's a wonderful man who has done all of the things he's supposed to do, and just wants to have a good, safe life here. And he's treated like garbage. See, that's what happens because they think, because of what one person has done, that everybody's like that. I have friends that are from Jordan, okay, that have been here forever. They opened businesses. They've helped the community. They have had their children here. They went to school with my children. And when 9/11 happened, people automatically thought that they were terrorists. We can't, that's not the way things happen, okay? And that's the problem. It takes one person to do something wrong and everybody looks at him in a bad way without knowing who it is, because there's so much of the illegal stuff happening, guys. That's where where the problems are in some senses. Good to see you, Phil. I hope you're feeling better, dear. And thank you for that. 5 more memberships gifted out to the cafe. What's happening, Scott? Good to see you again, brother. I'm glad you're here with us. Exactly, SRB. There you go. See, there's good people, guys, that will come from we're from other countries. My family's from Italy and Slovenia. We came over, they did what they did, and we're all immigrants to an extreme. Okay, it's these new people that are coming in here free, or not free, but illegally, and not having background checks and all that kind of stuff that's causing all these problems is where it is, and it's making others look bad. So it's a good thing that there are good people out there. Welcome to all the new members. I can't tell who got them all right now, but we'll figure that out here shortly. And again, thank you all so much for being part of the community, Phil. That's so very generous of you. Thank you again. God bless. We appreciate you very much.
So here's the comment from his team. We are disappointed in the verdict, obviously, which will be reviewed by our team. We will now focus on sentencing and ensuring that Mr. Martinez-Hernandez has a fair process that balances all of the relevant factors. I got about 10 seconds left. What factors might help him here? Anything?
They're going to try to find any type of appellate issue, and I'm sure they're going to raise that within 30 days after his sentencing, and then we just have to wait for the appellate courts.
Yeah. Hey, Randolph Rice, I really appreciate you guiding us through this process, and please pass on our condolences to Rachel Morin's mom and the rest of her family.
I will. Thanks, Ashley.
Okay, that was about all I could take of her voice, but anyway. Oh, okay. It looks like Nellie B, Chaos, Scara, Stelby Lynn, and Lynn T. Congratulations. Welcome back to the sauce, Miss Nellie. And welcome to the sauce, everybody else. Appreciate you very much for joining us. We got some new meatballs in the house. I think we got 10 new ones total. Yes, we do. That's awesome. That's amazing. And God bless, guys. I appreciate you very much. And again, Phil, that's amazing. Now I can see him. Yes, and that's our next story, Tomboy. Thank you. Jump up here. In regards to some Delphi stuff, guys, we've been covering that and following up with that recently. That was amazing, Phil. Thank you, and God bless so much. For me. Thank you, SRB, for that. All right, so we're going to review this video that Michelle After Dark put out, or Michelle Walks, whichever one you want to call it, in regards to the Delphi situation. And it's actually kind of interesting about Rick Allen's vehicle, as we've been following up with some of the stuff that's been coming out recently. The what do you call it? The interrogations, the 911, Jesus, the prison phone calls, things like that. I thought this was kind of interesting. And Nelly just gifted a membership as well. Thank you so much, Nelly. That's awesome. Again, you guys are amazing today. Thank you all very much for being so generous. Let me see real fast here. TLC is me was gifted by Miss Nelly. Thank you so much, dear. We appreciate that very much. And Miss Nelly is a part of the family again. That's awesome. You're absolutely amazing, Nelly. Thank you and God bless. That was absolutely amazing. And welcome, TLC is me. We're growing every day, guys. Growing. We got so many meatballs. I had to get a new big pot. So thank you, Phil, Nelly, and everybody else that has contributed. That's so generous of all you guys. We really appreciate it so very much. And that goes for anybody that chooses to support the channel in any aspect that way, such as the super chats, the super stickers. Leslie and Billy dropped the super chat early on. Anybody that donates to the PayPal, the Cash App, or the Venmo, all of that stuff is very, very, very much appreciated. We don't expect you guys to do that while you're here, but we appreciate it so much because it does keep our channel going and doing this every single day. So God bless and thank you all very much for all of that. No, don't ever think that, Nelly. Anything is amazing. So, and congratulations and happy day-anniversary, Miss Trish. 9 months already. Wow, that went by quick. So grateful to have you here, Trish. We appreciate that very much. It's a great family here, guys. An amazing community, and I'm very grateful for all of you. So thank you all for being part of this community. That's right. SRB says we're bringing that sauce to a boil again instead of a low simmer. That's amazing, and I love it. All right, let's see what Michelle's talking about here, guys. It's pretty interesting if you ask me. If you know what's been going on with Delphi and what a lot of people have been thinking lately after what we've seen, you know what I'm talking about.
Happy Tuesday. So I wasn't going to come live at this time. I was going to do a live stream this afternoon, my time. It's currently 11:16 a.m. here in the UK. And I was going to do a live stream later comparing the confession that Ron Logan made with those that Rick Allen made. And, you know, looking at which one is the most likely. However, I just started watching this. Now, this is on a channel called Excited Utterance. Hella Excited Utterance. And what she was playing was Vinnie Politan Investigates over on Court TV. Now, what happens with Court TV is they show Vinnie Politan's shows on their website, like live. They play it live, and then the day after, they put it on YouTube. So Excited Utterance happened to catch it live. And I started watching this. I'm like 23 minutes in. I was actually a little bit further. And something struck me. Okay, so this is going to be mega quick because I recognize that most people in the US, like the majority of my viewers, will still be asleep at this time, like even on the East Coast. you're likely still asleep at this time, or you've not gone to bed yet. I guess this is normally a great time for people down under. So good evening to you all. I'm from down under. But I am going to keep it mega quick, and I'm going to let this percolate, because when this episode of Vinnie Politano Investigates goes on YouTube, I'll review the whole thing. But I'm going to let this percolate, and then I'll do the Ron Logan confession thing maybe tomorrow, the next day, maybe. Okay, but I'm only going to play this little section. So, Excited Utterance is playing Court TV Live, and I'm playing Excited Utterance. So,
I absolutely agree, Nelly. That was one of the worst interrogations. It's obvious what he was doing. Or Vix, I'm sorry. What he was doing. It was horrible. So
it's interesting, but it's just this one thing that struck me. And is there more Delphi BS? Is my question. And I think there might be, unless there's a good explanation for this. But thank you so much, Krista, for a $49.99 super chat before the stream even went live. So thank you so much. You're incredibly generous. And Purple AJ has gifted 10 memberships. Let me just see who got those. All right, we got Taylor, Suzanne, Colcase, Karen, Britt, Hold My Hair Low, Trio Girl Mom, Poetic Justice. Let's have a look. Michelle, great name. And Carrie, welcome y'all. If you've never been a member before, go and check out the members area. If you have been a member before, welcome back. And thank you so much, Purple AJ. Krista and Purple AJ's superstars here today. I'm not going to say hellos. I'm going to get straight into this. Right. So this is new trial exhibit. Court TV have got their hands on a few new trial exhibits by the looks of things. And I don't know who else got these. I don't know whether there's YouTubers who are going to play these or who have played these and I've just missed them. But again, I'm playing this from Excited Utterance. This is Excited Utterance. And I'm kind of partway through this and something struck me. So look at this timestamp. Can you see that? I can't zoom in. Oh, I can zoom in a bit more. Can you see that timestamp there? 2017, 2:13. So 13th of February, 2017, the afternoon that the girls were abducted. 14:21. That's 21 minutes past 2 for those who are not familiar with the 24-hour clock and military time. 14:21, 2:21. Now, what time did they say that this car, that is supposedly Rick Allen's car, passed the Who's Your Harvey store camera? What did they say? What have they told us? What did they tell us? FBI confirmed that it's fast. Yeah, 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Vinnie Politano explains it. But I think there's monkey business going on here. Thought it was the 14th they went missing. No, it was the 13th. They went missing on the afternoon of the 13th and they were found around 12:15 p.m. So just gone midday on the 14th. So they were found on the 14th. Okay. All right, I'm going to play this. Now, the volume isn't great because Excited Utterance is playing this off live Court TV. And the volume is a little bit low on her end. So turn your volume up. You'll need to turn your volume up. I'll put CCs on. Oh, CCs are not on yet. It does take a few hours for YouTube to put CCs on. She streamed this 8 hours ago. Interesting why there's no CCs on yet. All right. without further ado, let's play this. So Court TV have got their hands on the CCTV footage from the Who's Your Harvey store camera, which is this one right here. So this is the bridge, and this is the Who's Your Harvey store camera. So the camera's like on the end of this building.
Hang on a minute, guys. I have an idea. 1 second here. One second. Where is it? Where is it? One minute. Okay. All right, hold on. Back to where we were. Sorry.
Court TV have got their hands on the...
All right. My apologies. Here we go.
CCTV footage from the Who's Your Harvey store camera, which is this one right here. So this is the bridge, and this is the Who's Your Harvey store camera. So the camera's like on the end of this building. Can anybody remember what time they said that Rick Allen's car passed going west, so going this way? Now, Rick Allen, in the interviews that we've all seen in the last week, said he came through town. This is the town of Delphi. And the trails are just on the outskirts of the town. This is the town, right? Rick Allen lives down here on Whiteman Drive. So how on earth would he be coming west on County Road North? If he came through town, coming from home, he'd come through town, it'd be much quicker, because if you went this way, you have to go down these, you have to go, I don't even know, there, across there, you have to go like that, all the way around. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? But they said that Rick Allen's car passed the Who's Your Harvey store camera at 1:27. That's what was in the PCA. That's what we've been all led to believe. Just in time, you know, to park at the old CPS building at like 1:30 and to meet the girls at 2:13 and abduct them. Okay, listen to this. Listen to this. Let me just get the right spot and then I'll zoom in again. All right. So again, I'm going to mute out so that you can turn your volume all the way up. We'll just go back a shared back so we get the context there.
This is really kind of interesting.
So I'm going to mute out and turn your volume up because it is quite low. Okay, I don't understand why there's no sound. Hold on, let me, this normally works. Sorry about that. All right, we'll go back to where we were. All right, let me know if you can hear this. Let me know if you can hear this.
There's Richard Allen denying that he is the bridge guy as he takes a look at that still frame from that video. Not the only video that was significant in the case, right? So there was also video of a car.
Can you hear that now? Yeah? It's bizarre. Okay. All right.
Driving towards the trails. And here are some of those images of the car that they say was driving towards where the trails were. And they are saying this is Richard Allen's car. Apparently had a Ford Focus, a black Ford Focus. And they say this is a black Ford Focus. And you can see it's in the spotlight there, the back left. Now, we also have an image with a time stamp on it. Let's take a look at that. And the time of this is significant as well. Well, there it says 14:21:39, which, you know, when you subtract 12 from it, puts you at 2:21 in the afternoon. But apparently they claim that it was not correct. At the time on the timestamp was not correct. And like everything else in this case, everything's just a little off. The other video is a little grainy. You can't quite see the bridge guy's face. You can't quite see exactly what kind of car this is. And you don't know the precise time because apparently there's a problem with that as well.
Reminds me of Brian Koberger's car.
Argued and successfully argued about that video to incriminate Richard Allen, which brings
Or
us to
that
the
aerial.
question in our investigation. And
So here's my question. How do they know how off that clock was? Yeah, funny how all these timestamps are incorrect. Now, regularly, right, CCTV and surveillance video is off, right? If the person whose camera it is doesn't set the time properly, it can be off, right? But to use this as an exhibit in court, shouldn't they have worked out what the actual time was? They've had a while to work it out, yeah. In the PCA, they said Rick Allen's car passed the Hoosier Harvey store camera at 1:27. How do they work out that 2:20 is 1:27? How have they worked out how much wrong that time is? Hasn't he already confessed? Oh, you need to go back and watch my videos, Paddy Productions. I'm also from the UK, and I know the truth. So go and watch my recent videos about the confessions. I think you simply can't give credibility to video a store had for 7 years when cops couldn't keep interviews for 70 days. I think they collected the video like soon after the murders, and they've just kept it in storage. But my question is, how have they been able to verify the time on the Hoosier Harvey store camera, and how have they been able to correct that? You know, if they've corrected 14:21, so 2:21, and made it 1:27, how have they worked out how wrong it was? So does it mean that everything that comes from the Hoosier Harvey store camera is also wrong? Because on this camera, this is the camera that captured all the movements on this road. And you can see that when you see the shots from the video, yes, it's in the distance, but it's pretty clear, isn't it? So this is the camera that should have caught the muddy and bloody man. Now, you might not have been able to see the blood on him, but you would have been able to see a man walking along here. This is what they claimed, that Sarah Carbo saw a muddy and bloody wet man walking west on County Road North at 3:57. Well, where is he? Where is he? Because now we know that camera shot is pretty clear. You'd absolutely see somebody walking along here at 3:57. You might not be able to identify them, but you'd definitely be able to see them. So again, is this just more fuckery? Is this just more BS? How have they verified what the actual time of this camera was? And we've got no verification, unless if somebody was in the courtroom and they explained how they corrected the time. Yeah, they saw Kelsey. So Kelsey driving away. So she dropped the girls off here. And they said it was 1:49 when she passed Who's Your Horror Store. So, again, how do we know that that time's correct? It's just BS. Absolute BS. I'm going to play a little bit more of this because they talk specifically about the car. And he's got Barbara MacDonald and Bob from Defense Diaries on it. Again, I'll review the whole thing once this hits YouTube. Probably tomorrow. So it'll probably come on like this evening. What they do on Court TV, they play it live on their website or on the TV. And then the day after, they post it to YouTube. And Excited Utterance, who is this lady here, she just happened to catch it live. So she missed the first bit. So she's not even got all of it. She missed the first bit. So not unless you were watching it live last night, none of us have seen it all. But yeah, it'll come on YouTube later today. He's heading home, right? I don't know. Because if he parked at the CPS building, which is here, he would never pass this camera. He would never pass this camera, like either coming or going. So he couldn't remember where exactly he parked. They've just assumed that he parked at the old CPS building, which is here. Now, he could have parked here. This is actually a designated parking area. Now, whether it was in 2017 or not, I'm not sure. Like, this area was there in 2017, but there was a building there. So I'm not sure that you could actually park there in 2017. But that's where he normally parks when he goes to the trails. So he'd never pass this camera because he lives down here. Let's put his address in. 1967 Whiteman Drive. So that's where Rick lives, 1967 Whiteman, which is here. So he'd just go through town and then park there. Or go under that bridge, and if he was going to the old CPS building, he'd have to go under that bridge and park there. So he'd never pass this camera. Unless he went all the way around here. So instead of going just through town, he went this way. He'd have to go all the way to here, I think, and then go around to appear on this camera at all. Either going or coming. But this camera is really clear. So you definitely see somebody walking And it's not clear enough, however, to see what kind of car that is. So let's play a little bit more of this. And they actually talk about the car.
139, which, you know, when you subtract 12 from it, puts you at 221 in the afternoon. But apparently they claim that it was not correct. At the time on the timestamp was not correct. And like everything else in this case, everything's just a little off. You know, the video's a little grainy. You can't quite see the bridge guy's face. You can't quite see exactly what kind of car this is. And you don't know the precise time because apparently there's a problem with that as well.
Reminds me of Brian Koberger's car.
Argued and successfully argued about that video to incriminate Richard Allen, which brings
All
us to
that
the next
aerial.
question in our investigation. And it's all about the video right there. Is this Richard Allen's car? Is that the Ford Focus, black Ford Focus? And is that him arriving at the trails just in time to abduct and murder these two innocent girls?
No.
Still with us, Barbara McDonald and Bob Mata. I think we have a split screen because I don't even know what a Ford Focus looks like a 2016, you know. So we have a split screen here. On the right, we found the car that is described as his, and then on the left is the surveillance.
I mean, look, that's like really, really zoomed in. Like the actual camera is like from a distance, so that's really zoomed in. How
A Ford Focus is smaller than this. See this thing back here in the back window? That's not on a Focus, folks. There's definitely a difference there. Completely. Just so you know.
can you actually tell what colour that car is? Now, we know that that's a dark coloured car. I think we could say that, dark coloured car. But it could be a dark grey car. It could be a blue car. You know, them coming along
And this car does not look black to me. That looks like a dark, maybe a brown, bronze, gray. Definitely not black, in my opinion. See, this whole back piece right here that's all wrong to be a Focus, folks. Completely wrong.
saying, well, Rick Allen was the only person who had a black Ford Focus in Delphi at that time is nonsense. What about blue Ford Focuses? What about grey, dark grey Ford Focuses? Like, we know it's not white. Like, it's definitely not a white car.
Hey, Whispers.
Could even be a red car. We don't know. So zoomed in, how do we know? How do we know? And how do we know that that's actually a 2016 Ford Focus? How do we know that? Ford Focuses are just pretty standard cars.
It don't look like one to me.
Yeah, you need to stretch that car out a bit. I mean, it could be a Ford Focus. It could absolutely be a Ford Focus. But there's absolutely no way to tell whether that's Rick Allen's car or not. And also, I would like to know how they worked out what the actual time was. Because the timestamp on the Who's Your Harvey Store camera says 2:21. Now, we know the state has questioned the camera on Brad Webber's van, you know, the surveillance footage that the defense got from the discovery.
I agree now.
Of Brad Webber's van, and released it after the trial. And that timestamp was 2:44. And the defense, in their reply, said,
I agree, Bix.
well, we don't know that the timestamp is correct. We don't know it's the correct time. Well, I'll throw it right back at them. How do we know what the time was on this Who's Your Harvey Store camera? Because it definitely didn't say 1:27. So how did they work out how wrong that time was? Surely they had to work it out, how wrong that time was. On Defence Diary's Twitter post, October 22nd, Bob stated that the feds verified this timestamp was 54 minutes fast. Yes, but how? How did they clarify it? We know that it's fast, but how did they clarify it? It's just BS. Absolute BS. Has it been confirmed to be a Ford Focus? No. No. There's a bunch of similar cars.
It's definitely longer than the Focus hatchback. This looks to be almost like a maybe an Outback, a Subaru Outback or something, because it's longer. It's got that station wagon look to it, in my opinion, than what a Focus has. You know, I'm not saying that that's an Outback. I'm saying it kind of resembles that to me, with that back window and that lip up there. That could be an Outback, guys.
I don't think he was going home because, as I've just said, this is Rick Allen's house here. So the quickest way is just to go through town. And that's where the bridge is. That's where the Hoosier Harvester camera is. That's where you would park these days to go to the trails. The state said that he parked here. He couldn't remember where he parked. So they said he parked there. So whether he was coming or going, he wouldn't have even passed that camera. Just going the, normal route. To pass that camera, either coming or going, he would have to go right the ways along here and go down this way. Because the creek's there. So there's nowhere to pass because you can't drive a car over the bridge. So you have to go all the ways up here. So you're going a few miles out of your way to even pass that camera. It's always concerned me. This camera has always concerned me because of the place where Rick Allen lived. That it doesn't make sense for him to be passing that camera at all. Unless...
You see what I mean? It reminds me of an Outback a little bit. It's got that lip on the back and everything. That's all my opinion was.
He took a really scenic route. But I want to know how they verified how fast this clock was. Normally, they show at the trial, they show a verification. Like, they can show an actual clock. Like looking at the time on an actual clock, when there's ways to verify. There's ways to verify. And so how do we know how they verified that time? And they didn't just make it up. We can't.
Welcome, circus music.
It's more reasonable doubt. Did Rick go straight to the trails from his mum's house or stop at home first? I think he'd had to take to go west on County Road North. Doesn't make sense in relation to where he lived. And I can't believe it. Just can't believe it. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you so much to Krista for the 49.
I don't know, guys. That definitely doesn't look like Richard Allen's car. Let me see something. But I'm not surprised because nothing else has fit. So why would this? Okay, so maybe hold on here. I guess it's a little hard to see per se, but That is supposedly his car there. A black Focus wagon. I'm guessing, I guess. I don't know. I just, that with this whole thing back here, I don't think that's it. It does sit higher. That's a good point, Cap. I don't think it is. I don't think that's the same vehicle. Right there, Miss Nellie. Megadeggy. Absolutely no. They just don't look the same to me, you guys. I agree, Alicia. Cap said the same thing. Most definitely. It does kind of look like a potato. Mackey's right. Just saying, guys. They don't look the same to me. Let's see here. One moment here. Hold on. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm trying to load something that's not working. Right, Nelly. The time is off and everything at this point. Not to mention what we've seen. More bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Hang on here. Oh, that was the other thing. Hold on. It definitely has some questions. They don't. They never say how they figured the timing was off. Right, Nelly, like the white van. Yeah, we're gonna need to delve into this a little bit more coming up because there's just too much stuff that makes this not fit. Hang on here. right? Excuse me. Hold on, I got it, guys. Now, there's something that Court TV put out. It has the confessions in it. We've already seen that, but there's some other stuff in here that I wanted to show you guys too. In regards to Delphi, I thought was quite interesting and that you guys might be interested in as well.
A spotlight on incredible new footage obtained in the case of the Delphi murders. We're now able to see the last known photo of Abby Williams and Libby German, the victims in this horrific case. These two are the young children who were murdered by Richard Allen in the year 2017 in Delphi, Indiana. Allen was recently found guilty, you'll recall, and sentenced to spend 130 years in prison. And now, thanks to this newly released evidence, we can also go inside of Richard Allen's case, inside his jail cell, and inside of his interrogation. Take a look.
You're gonna pay for what you've done to my wife. Well, like, you wanna with me, but you leave my wife out of this. Leave me out of it.
No, you're involved in this. You're around there, Rick.
No, it's
I can
not.
see you're getting off. I understand.
Did you not see my wife?
Did you not see these two girls dead? No, that's what happened. You got off at them, dragged them down the hill, and you killed. You told me you didn't.
I didn't kill any.
You're upset for a reason, not because
you guys are trying to kill somebody.
You're trying to tell me that I'm not making this round up, Rick. It is what it is.
I'm done talking. Arrest me.
Happy to.
Oh, fiery exchange right there. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to dig in big time right now. And fortunately, we have a resident case expert here in the studio to help me do that. Barbara McDonald, Court TV, senior producer with our documentary unit, and someone who's followed the case from its inception. You did the Down the Hill podcast on this. And so this was one you followed literally start to finish. And now here we are. You just were mailed this piece of evidence.
Yes.
Tell you how fresh this is, my friends. Barbara's still going through it. Look, just got this.
Thumb drive in the mail, snail mail.
Oh my gosh. And it's hours upon hours of
exhibits. So it's like 3 hours of interrogation videos. It's probably an hour and 15 minutes or so of confession phone calls. Now, the entire hour and 15 isn't him confessing, but it's the phone calls. And then we got some video, drone video of the trails. We got some photos like of the bullet and the gun that were collected and things like that. But we didn't get everything. A lot is not being released. We didn't get any of the crime scene photos, any of the graphic images. All of that was held back, and many other files were as well.
Sure. So these are things, now that the case is closed, you can understand, members of the media, you know, the court is allowing these things to be made public. So you were one of the members who sat in the courtroom during the trial. Folks like yourself are receiving these things in the mail this week. Barbara, take us back. A moment ago, we saw that fiery exchange. Give us some context to that, if you will.
So that was his second interrogation. That happened leading right into his arrest. In fact, just minutes after that, he's arrested and placed in handcuffs. And this was him going in voluntarily to talk to them. He wanted to pick up his car that had been seized in the search warrant 2 weeks prior. And they said, sure, come on down and you can have your car back. So he and his wife show up thinking that they're going to pick up their car. And instead they're told, oh, we just have a couple of quick questions for you, and led into interrogation rooms.
Okay, so this is helpful. So this is after, and he cooperated way back when he talked to police. I remember we knew
back
that.
in 2017, he said, I'd been out at the trails. He said, I didn't see Abby or Libby, but I was out there that day.
He put himself there, which was always something, I know, just as someone following it as closely as I could, having not seen the trial like you did, that was always big for me. The other big thing for me was the confession to his wife. We have an audio clip of this.
This was huge. Let's take a listen to him admitting to doing it.
Well, I need to tell you something anyway.
Okay. Are you sure you want to talk to me over the phone?
I think I have to.
Okay.
I need you to know that I did this.
What? No. No, you didn't, dear. There's no way. There's no way, dear.
Love me.
There it is, the confession. Barbara, for anybody that had any doubt, that really puts it to bed, hearing the confession come from his mouth. His wife's in denial, but he is not. Was that a moment for the jury? Did you see any reactions, if you recall?
The jury was quite stoic during the playing of these calls. They were paying attention, but it was hard to tell which way they were leaning. It is important to note, though, when that call was made, it was about a month after he'd been diagnosed as being psychotic, and about 3 weeks after he'd been given the first dose of an antipsychotic medication. The prison logs indicated that that course of treatment hadn't yet started to work. And he was given another course of that treatment a week after that phone call was made. And he was also in solitary confinement in a maximum security prison. So, you know, one could argue that his conditions contributed to his mental decline. He also lost a tremendous amount of weight in jail, about 80 or 90 pounds at one point.
I remember you telling us about this, that he was eating his papers.
He was eating papers, he was eating his own waste, he was banging his head into the cell. A lot of really disturbing behavior that led to that diagnosis.
I would love to, I don't think we have a lot of time to spend on this, but curious, did the state push back on that? Did they say he was feigning it?
They said that the period of psychosis was shorter and that by the time he was making these calls, he was no longer psychotic, was their version of the events. The defense did put on a psychologist, a forensic psychologist, who said that, no, she believed he still was psychotic at the time. So
interesting.
The jury clearly went with the state.
Sure. Barbara, I want to ask you about the round, the unspent round that was deemed to have cycled through his gun. This was always, for me, something that I couldn't get past. He denied it, though, right? This is a video
in the interrogation. He denies that's his round.
Yeah.
No way.
And exactly where at the scene, if you could kind of describe for us, it was near one of the children,
It was near
right?
Liberty German's foot. It was about 6 inches from her foot, in between the bodies of the two girls. And it was pointing down into the ground. So I believe it was only that, and forgive me, the stamp end, is that what it's called? The back end that says Winchester?
Sure.
That's what
Where
was
the
showing up
primer is.
out of the ground. Yes.
You could see the, okay.
So it was down
Yeah.
like this in the ground.
Ah, okay. Boy, that's interesting. And a gun was not used to kill
No,
these precious
they
children.
do believe that perhaps a gun was used to scare the girls and gain control of them to get them to go with him. But there is no definitive proof other than this bullet at the scene that a gun was used in that way.
Sure. Did the state theorize that he might have had one in the chamber and
Yes,
racked
and he
it
said he
and-
did typically carry that way. That when he did carry his gun, now he says he didn't have his gun the day that the girls were abducted and killed, that he did voluntarily go out to the trails. He said that, but he said, I did not have a gun or a knife with me. But he said when he did carry his gun, he did typically have one chambered.
Yeah, so that would make sense. Anybody who knows, you could easily.
Right, and if you're
Sanity
perhaps
checks.
making the noise to scare.
Alan was.
And yes, if you look at this car and the style of window, that could almost match up myself. I would think myself. It's hard to say for sure, but I mean, it could with the vehicle that we saw. Just saying. It's just a thought, guys. Just a thought. There's so much wrong with this case. So much wrong. No, wait, that wasn't the... Hold on. Yeah. Yep. That car that they were that picture, that very well could be the same vehicle that we see driving away that they're saying is his. Very, very easily. Quite interesting, folks. Quite interesting. Okay, now hold on a minute here. Hang on, everybody. Okay, so this is one more thing I wanted to review with you guys. This just came out 23 hours ago. I thought this was kind of interesting. We're kind of switching gears a little bit here, but staying in the same stuff we've been talking about. This was released through Fox. Is a segment that they're running on Idaho. Three jury didn't catch on that bullet. Couldn't have muffled itself all the way over by the girl's foot. Good point. Mippled. Yes, good point. In his confession to Monica Walla, bing bang, said his bullet fell out at the bridge, correct? I can't remember, Tomboy. I can't remember. That's a good point. I would be curious to know what type of vehicle Kelsey drove. Truly. Very curious. Very, very curious. And that was, years ago, so it'd be hard. I don't know. It might not be too hard to figure it out. We'll see what we can do with that. But this is interesting as well. Stepping forward.
Us are going to want more of, and we'll never get. I think one thing that every single one of us are going to want more of, and we'll never get, is what is going on inside the mind of Bryan Kohberger.
Live from Fox 13, this is breaking news. All right, good morning, everybody. We are getting our first look at the man who is in custody now, connected to the killings of 4 university students in Moscow, Idaho.
Everybody wanted to know who this person was.
Bryan Kohberger is in custody, arrested in Pennsylvania this morning, as we try and learn more about him.
If we could just get inside of this person's head and understand, we would all feel a lot of closure.
The 28-year-old attended Northampton Community College, where he made the dean's list at least 2 semesters, then graduated DeSales University in his home state of Pennsylvania with a master's in criminal justice. This fall, he moved to Pullman to begin his first semester at Washington State, seeking a PhD. Some of those that knew him in school described him as professional, nice, mature.
It says to me that he's really got 2 faces, but the fact that he was able to hide this behind a calm and friendly demeanor and not set off any alerts or issues when he was getting an education, that's scary.
And I want to welcome everybody to the propaganda game. Welcome, folks, to the Bryan Kohberger propaganda train that has been railing on through here. Nope. No. Everything you look at tells you the same stuff, guys. Good to see you, Joey from Portugal. Welcome. Good to have you here, buddy. What's up, Tomboy? Christy Nevada's in the house. There is someone who has been arrested by being a... Really? That's interesting, Trish. Let's check that out, too. Hold on. What am I holding on for? There's a... Here, hold on. I got an idea, guys. Give me a second. I'll give you guys an option here for the last thing that we cover, the last serious thing we cover. Hold on. I'll go ahead and pin a link. If anybody wants to join us up here today, you're welcome to. Okay. Good point, Bix. All right, here we go.
Was very talkative and friendly person.
Narong says Koberger was passionate about criminology studies and his PhD.
He would talk about, he wants to know why people commit crime, why, what is the key reason behind crimes, and how people think while committing them.
We've now had more court filings come out, right? Now we've learned he has autism, or he's been diagnosed with autism. And we've had hints of this along the way.
He did not acknowledge anyone in the crowd that was sitting in the gallery area of the courtroom. They'd come to watch the proceedings. He kept his eyes basically straight forward and focused only on his attorney and the judge.
You read things like this and it makes you feel one way, but then you have to look at the evidence and that points in a different direction. And then at the end of the day, you have these 4 students who are no longer with us.
Brian Koberger looked alert as he listened to the charges against him, including felony burglary and 4 counts of first-degree murder, with the victims' names and associated charges read one by one.
The defendant, Brian C. Koberger, on or about November 13th of 2022 in Lake Tahoe County, state of Idaho.
I think he probably has an excellent ability to compartmentalize, meaning he can do something horrendous and think something horrendous.
No worries, Nelly. Do what you need to do, ma'am.
And then box it over here, leave it over here, and then to the world, he appears as though he's just an innocent guy.
When Brian first entered the courtroom, he greeted his defense attorney with a brief smile. The judge later finding him eligible for a public defender.
I have court-appointed counsel.
Defense attorneys say court is theater. And by that, there's an element of not dishonesty, but some things are going to be held behind the curtain.
Defense attorneys for Brian Koberger now suggesting that he had an alibi the night 4 University of Idaho students were murdered. In a new court filing, defense attorneys claim to have evidence that a WSU criminology student was not at the home where the murders took place last fall. However, they did not provide any details backing up that story, saying instead that it would come out at trial.
When we hear about a crime, we want to know a motive. We want to know the reasons why. We want all of the facts. That is our expectations. But when you're an attorney and you have a trial on the line, you're playing a different game. If you think of it like this, you have a set of jurors who are neutral from the start, and there are 2 finish lines, 2 different paths that they can take. And over the time period of this trial, each side, the state and the defense, are going to work to get them to their path. And at some points, they might sway to the left. At other points, they might sway to the right. It is the defense and the state's job to shepherd them in the direction they want. And what you're trying to do is get enough jurors on your side of that rope to make sure they sway opinion. And for the defense, it's a little bit easier because they don't have to ever get that rope to go over the line. They just have to prevent it from going too far.
That's right.
So when we were speaking with Ann Bremner, she did mention these 2 very high-profile cases, O.J. Simpson and the Casey Anthony case, both where there was a public opinion of guilt going into it that ended up not having the results that a lot of people expected.
But remember that there were anomalies there, and that was enough to convince a jury to acquit him. I mean, the fact that the questions of how the blood was stored, whether or not there was a planting of a glove by, Mark Furman at the house.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Those anomalies, those kind of inexplicable, unexplained.
Well, we were definitely waiting for the trial, but with the things that come out now, they're definitely worth talking about because they have caused many a problem within this trial. So, or this case, I'm sorry. But we're, you know, the be all end all is going to come during the trial. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Types of evidence can basically build up with a jury to where they have a reasonable doubt. All they need is a reasonable doubt for one juror to at least have a hung jury, and that would be a victory for the defense.
Apparently, Kohberger said immediately upon officers arriving, "Who else did you arrest?" And that came out around the same time with some.
Right.
And that is not true. That's misinformation that was put out. That is not true. No proof that he said that. His attorney clarified that there's no proof that he said that. The only thing that his attorney could verify, see, this is the problem, is that these places are putting this shit out that's not true. Was that he cannot wait to be exonerated for this. His attorney verified that, not this statement. So don't take that and run with it, guys.
With a defendant saying something like that, with your professional expertise, what does that tell you, if anything?
Well, it tells you that there could be another person involved. I mean, he would be truthful in kind of blurting something out when the police get there. You know, that was the first thing that he said. That's the first thing that came to his mind. Like, did you get the other person, or did you get a different person who did this? I didn't do it. Is there another arrest? Because you know now, at least according to the prosecution's briefing, he apparently is going to claim that the evidence was planted. That the real killer planted the evidence.
Armchair quarterback question, looking at both sides, would you do anything different?
I think the defense will do everything they can to save him from the death penalty.
Absolutely. And that's what has happened throughout this, which is where the propaganda, in my opinion, has come from. They put all this out. And it's just been a train going on through this whole case. That's never been, that was debunked actually as not ever being stated that they could record on record. So there's that.
Attorneys claim he has autism, and now they're trying to use his diagnosis to get the death penalty taken off the table.
You can't sentence somebody to death who's under the age of 18, and you can't sentence somebody to death who has intellectual disability.
His attorneys say a doctor has evaluated him, and they say his autism has had significant impact on his daily life.
The jury needs to understand everything about that defendant that influences his responsibility for that crime.
So the newspaper found social media postings from Kohberger from 2011, and in them he wrote about not feeling emotions.
What's written here is the most insightful of anything I've seen for Kohberger, because his level of honesty here really tells you.
This has always bothered me. I'm going to tell you why. He wrote things that were somewhat considered dark to some people. I used to write songs. I used to write music. And in the songs, the things I wrote were somewhat dark when I was younger. Okay? Because they're emotions and feelings. I didn't kill anybody. And they're using these things to point to him saying, see, he did it because of this. He did it because he did that thing he did for his class. He did it for this. He did it for that. This is what I'm saying with the propaganda train, folks. This is what has happened. If none of this would have been put out, nobody would look as heavily at him as they have. But it had to be done on the side of prosecution, in my opinion, to make it look good, to make sure everybody looks at him like he's guilty. That is what this has done, in my opinion. I'm sure there's people that disagree with me, but that's exactly how I see it at this point. Even Bob says he thinks this is why he might be guilty. I didn't feel love for my parents when I was a teenager. I had too much. See, a lot of teenagers have that. A lot of young people have that. I'm not saying it's normal, it's right, but he's also on the spectrum per se, and he's got other things going on. So who knows? Who knows? And it could all be right, and maybe somehow or another he did it. I just don't feel like it at this time. I just really don't. Sorry, I was muted that whole time. My apologies. It is propaganda, though. If you look into what propaganda is, there's been nothing positive put out about him. Never. It's all been dark and negative the whole time. And the guilt side of this has pushed it like you wouldn't believe. Okay, and I know how you feel about things, and I understand and respect that fully. But and speculation has been, quite a bit of it on both sides, definitely. So. But there's a difference in speculation and propaganda, though. There really is. And there's been a lot of propaganda that's been rushed through this whole thing from the moment they arrested him till this very day. If you look into it, it's absolutely what it is.
What he's going through.
I'll tell you, like if I talk like to my family or my friends and they say, do you think he can get off? I never heard that before. Just kind of, out there in the ether, people saying, do you think he can get off? And I think that's because of all of this press about all the attacks on the case by the defense.
A court ruling expected as soon as next week may upend the case against accused University of Idaho student killer Brian Kohberger.
Well, Kohberger's attorneys are asking Judge Steve Hippler to toss out not only the DNA evidence in this case, but nearly all of the evidence collected.
Kohberger's attorneys say police illegally obtained his DNA through genetic genealogy, and they believe that's a violation of Kohberger's Fourth Amendment rights.
The defense also argues evidence was illegally collected from Kohberger's digital history, including Amazon, Apple, and Google accounts, as well as cell phone data, placing Kohberger at the scene of the murder a dozen times before the actual killings.
Did any of them stand out more than the others? Or any of these new things that we've heard more significant in a case?
I think the autism.
We are back on the record in State v. Kohberger.
Keep in mind, Idaho has no insanity defense, no diminished capacity defense, no mental defenses at all. So he can't put that in the murder trial, but they can at sentencing because of that case law that talks about cruel and unusual punishment to kill somebody that's mentally ill.
And we start tonight with accused killer Brian Kohberger and his attempts to avoid the death penalty. Attorneys claim he has autism, and now they're trying to use his diagnosis to get the death penalty taken off the table.
His attorneys say a doctor has evaluated him, and they say his autism has had significant impact on his daily life. Today, though, I talked with an expert who tells me the fact that the defense is raising this even before the trial starts is unique.
The Supreme Court of the United States has never ruled on this. Many state and federal courts haven't ever ruled on it. They haven't had the opportunity to do it. So yes, I think there's an opportunity for a court to say that we're not going to allow people with autism to be sentenced to death.
That doesn't mean they won't be punished for their crimes if they are found guilty, but they will receive a different kind of punishment.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Because culpability is at the heart of whether someone should receive a death penalty, the jury needs to understand everything about that defendant that influences his responsibility for that crime. And that includes any sort of brain impairments.
Then he had that visual snow, and there's some reference that he was saying he wanted to kill himself. It was so bad, or he just couldn't live like this. And so those are things you definitely have to look into.
Before this even came about, I didn't even know what visual snow syndrome was. I've never heard of it before.
What visual snow is when the vision looks like you're looking through a screen of static. Most of my patients also report persistent after images. So looking at even just a computer screen briefly, they might see the image in their vision as they're looking around. Really sensitive to light is another hallmark. And there's a lot of other symptoms that are not visually related that are correlated. So you have things like depression.
It's become so widely known now, Trish, and such a big thing now. It's being used in my opinion, in some reasons as more of an excuse than it should be. I'll say.
Anxiety, depersonalization.
I remember there were forums that came out with Kohberger kind of posting on it, talking about visual snow and the symptoms of it.
The New York Times investigation pulling the curtain back on Brian Kohberger, the Idaho quadruple murder suspect.
So the newspaper found social media postings from Kohberger from 2011, and in them he wrote about not feeling emotions. In 2011, Kohberger would have been just 16 years old.
I often find myself making simple human.
And that's what I'm saying. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. This is the propaganda side of things that I'm talking about. Okay. How many 16-year-old males do you know that aren't the most popular football player type of kids? Don't say things like this. Like I said, I used to write lyrics to songs, and they were just as bad, if not worse, in some senses. Okay. When I was younger, he was 16. Okay. He wasn't the happiest kid in the world. He was overweight. He was bullied in some senses, I'm sure. He's on the spectrum. Come on. Like, it's somewhat normal to do some of this stuff, okay? That doesn't mean that you're a killer. Just saying. And they're using that against him to try to make, the world see him that way. And that's what I'm talking about. It's bullshit.
Interactions, but it's as if I'm playing a role-playing game. I'm stuck in this void of nothing, feeling completely no emotion, feeling nothing.
I feel dirty, like there's dirt inside of my head, my mind.
I agree with that, Eddie.
I remember when I was 15, I would wander alone at 2 a.m. Everything was so generic. Nowhere felt like home. I saw things that were not there, a different reality.
It is as if the ringing in my ears and the fuzz in my vision is simply all of the demons in my head mocking me. I fall asleep, but I wake up quickly to bloody scream.
I didn't say they wouldn't, Miss Sherry. Of course they would. But the problem is recognizing the problem. They absolutely would do it to any of us or anybody else that were to be charged with this. This is what they do. It's not, that's not the question. The problem is that it's being done in general, at all. Okay. That's what the problem is. That's why I drew attention to it multiple times, because it is an issue. Okay. And it takes away from the constitutional value of getting a fair trial, because that, in my opinion, does not allow for a fair trial, because the whole world is seeing him and has been seeing him as guilty until proven innocent. That's not how this works. That's what my biggest issue with all of this is. Okay. And we see it. Okay. So of course, anybody that gets charged will have the same shit done to them no matter what it is, guys, every time. So it's a fact. The problem is that it happens at all is what my issue is. So
one expert that I talked with about
that right there, you see what they just did? That's what they're making this look like. In turn, people are going to mold a picture of him in their minds as this crazy schizophrenic psycho person that's a serial killer. No, that's what I'm talking about. That's the problem. That's the thing. A lot of us do. That's what we talk about. A lot of us do see it for being what it is. A lot of people won't, though. That's the problem. The guilters don't care. They want to see these things. They want to go, see, I told you. See, I said it. I said he was crazy and he was a killer. See. There's the whole problem with this entire situation. That's the whole problem. And I'm just tired of seeing it.
Visual snow syndrome talked about a ringing in the ears, how some folks do experience that.
Welcome back now.
They didn't mention these other things, though.
What's written here is the most insightful of anything I've seen for Kohberger, because his level of honesty here really tells you what he's going through, the demons he thinks he's battling, how much he feels like he has no self-worth, and how much he really hates himself.
Feel like my life is a movie. Depression, no interest in activity, constant thought of suicide.
Crazy thoughts, delusions of grandeur, anxiety.
Poor self-image, poor social skills, no emotion, all in caps. I feel like nothing has a point to it.
I search for someone to relate to me. Everyone looks down upon me. No one can relate. Being me is this horrible disease that I was given. Honestly, it seems kind of unbelievable. This whole situation just seems as if it's been scripted. that you would have.
Vic said dexterity is a bullock. Right now, to prepare food can be dangerous. Murder in 7 minutes? Yeah, no. I got you. I understand what you're saying, Vix.
Suspect in this case who had the education that they did, who is now accused of this crime.
It is amazing to me that if he's guilty, he went to a state that has the death penalty by firing squad.
We're comfortable with firearms. We see them to be used for justice.
Some people have said maybe he did that as to kind of run into his own demise.
Well, for most people, when they first hear the use of firing squad, they may think that's barbaric and awful. But listen to the experts.
The best medical evidence shows that unconsciousness ensues within 3 to 4 seconds, and death follows swiftly thereafter.
911 location of your emergency. Something is happening. Something's happening in our house. We don't know what.
A flood of new evidence has been released ahead of the quadruple murder trial of Brian Kohberger. That includes the 911 call made just hours after the murders.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. Okay. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night.
Fox 13's Shira Matsuzawa talked with the father of one of the victims about that 911 call, Idaho's firing squad, and what he misses the most after his daughter's death.
Honestly, it's terrible. My wife never wanted to hear it. She still doesn't hear it. She still hasn't listened to it. She probably never will.
Steve Gonsalves is Kaylee's dad, but he also considers Maddie a daughter.
We didn't lose one girl. We lost two.
Seeing his face and hearing his name triggers Steve every time.
You want to do all kinds of illegal things that you're not supposed to even talk about. It's terrible.
If convicted, Kohberger faces the death penalty. His attorneys are fighting to get that removed. But it comes as Idaho Governor Brad Little signed legislation to make the firing squad the state's main method of execution.
This is somebody playing God and ending people's lives. So we got to make a determination. We set an example that this isn't a place where we're going to tolerate this type of behavior.
It is amazing to me that if he's guilty, he went to a state that has the death penalty by firing squad and has no insanity defense, no mental defense. If he stayed in our state, it might be a little bit different.
15-minute drive that changes the entire basis of this case.
Exactly.
Bingo, Mark. That's what the guilters do, in my opinion. Okay? Now, my mind has moved based on the things that I've learned from the case, from the documents that we've seen, from the things released, once we got the text messages, so on and so forth, all that kind of stuff. That's when my mind has changed. Okay. Before that, I was right down the middle. Well, seeing the things that we've seen recently, it has made me believe or feel that, I'm leaning more towards the innocent side now, because it doesn't make sense for him to be guilty with all these things we've seen. None of it does. And that's not based on what, obviously I make my own mind up. If I wanted to be like everybody else, I could just hope, yep, he's guilty because he was arrested and the courts say he is. That doesn't make sense to me. So I agree with that.
Just a 15-minute drive. Some people have said maybe he did that as to kind of run into his own demise. He had to know that all of these things if he's a murderer, as he went into Idaho, he knew all those things.
Now, I understand that, Wisdom. I'm not saying that. That's what it is right there, is some of this that that's been brought forth recently is common sense. When you step back and you look at it and you go, wait a minute. So we're told to believe a PCA that doesn't make sense anymore. It's been basically stated by the state to just, it's irrelevant at this point. All these things that have been shown to us, the statements by Cy Ray, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Common sense tells you, okay, well, this tells me that there's more of an innocent look to this now than there is a guilty one. And that's what I'm going with. And I absolutely understand and believe what you're saying. And that's fact. That's absolute fact. Unless they can put him in that house, there's no way a jury will convict. And they haven't been able to prove that he was in that house at this point yet. They've shown us things that I don't think have any pertinence to this whatsoever. The car, I do not believe, has anything to do with this at this point. And many other things that have changed my mind on this. It's crazy, but it's where it is. You know what I mean? So, commonsensically speaking, I can't look at the guilt side of this with any kind of comfort anymore or confidence. It doesn't make sense for him to be guilty now. That's all I'm saying.
Keep in mind, Idaho is a firearms state. I live in the county with the 10th most firearms per capita in the nation. I think we're tied with a couple other counties in the nation, and another one of our counties is the third highest per capita firearms in the nation. So we're comfortable with firearms. We see them to be used for justice. For most people, when they first hear the use of firing squad, they may think that's barbaric and awful. But listen to the experts. There's experts around the country that say this is the best way to go.
I wouldn't say that I'm an advocate for firing squad execution. I'm just I'm probably the person, one of the few people who can explain it from a medical and ballistics perspective in such a manner that it's understandable. I'm an emergency physician. I'm a trauma specialist, so I don't rejoice in the fact that the state is going to kill these people by firing squad, lethal injection, or anything else. But the law states that the state can, and therefore it behooves me as a physician my primary objective is not to necessarily save lives, but to minimize suffering compared to some of the other violent means of death that are available at the hands of the state. Death by gunshot wound has less suffering associated with it. Any patrolman who has a rifle in his squad car in the state of Idaho is going to be capable of meeting the marksmanship standard of a firing squad easily. It's not a difficult shot. So it's basically the inmate is restrained in a chair, a target is placed over the heart, and then a number of high-powered rifles.
I agree. We've seen it from the beginning. Media has led people. They don't make up their own minds. They just believe what they're seeing and they move forward and go on with it. That's all there is to it, which in turn has caused where we're at with it.
Military-grade rifles are used to fire bullets into the heart, which leads to catastrophic destruction of the heart, immediate drop of blood pressure to almost nothing. Well, actually to nothing. And then when blood flow ceases, the best medical evidence shows that unconsciousness ensues within 3 to 4 seconds, and death follows swiftly thereafter.
That's the biggest thing that bothers me, you guys, with this whole thing. The whole thing is if Brian didn't do this, which it looks to me at this point that there's nothing to prove that he did, and he's convicted of this, and they take his life. What? That's murder. It's no better than what we've had happen already. You know what I mean? That's my problem. That's what I don't like. That's what is bothering me, and it seems to be happening so regularly now, and it's no big thing to people. It's wrong. Now, if he did it, okay, you know where we're at with that. Anybody that did do this should have to, especially as horrible as it is, the 4 lives that were lost, for no reason, deserves that form of a punishment. Make sure you have the right person. That's all I'm saying. Or persons. Yeah, I can agree with that, Cap. I thought that too, that it was Ellie trying to pull information out of people. That's a good theory, bro.
If you look at it just on the surface level, you see someone that just seems to fit this character that has been created of a cold killer.
Committing some horrible crime, maybe it just seems like it's some kind of a movie to him. Maybe he doesn't even feel like people are real.
It seems like with each day we're learning new details. So no, I don't think we'll ever know who the real Brian Kohberger is.
You're his defense attorney. Do you let him take the stand? you're his defense attorney, do you let him take the stand?
I would never let him take the stand. There's just too much. There's too much evidence they can cross him with. Like you just talked about, with the sightings, the car being there a number of different times. That his background in criminal justice, the sheath and his DNA. Like, how do you explain?
A car being there. They need to say that the right way. A car, not the car or his car. A car being there. Miss Wisdom says, Dago, in the beginning I was 50-50, but now I'm not. I don't see the possibility of them proving he was in. I don't either at this point. Although I think we'd have seen something already, Wisdom. I think that there would have been some form of a move by the prosecution to say, hey, we know this is our guy, and here's why. And they have never done that. And that's what makes me really question what they have. We've heard from the beginning, oh, they'll bring so much more. They're going to show us something. It's going to be a bomb drop. It's going to be this. Where? And when? Possibly how? I don't see how. There's this dumbass rumor out there that there's a video of showing him getting out of a car and going into the house. I'm calling bullshit times 300, folks. If we'd have had a video on Brian Koberger getting out of a white launcher walking into that house, I guarantee you it would have been put out already. I don't care if people are saying they didn't need to do that. They didn't have to have that. They only needed just enough to do that. Bullshit. Stop with the shit already. It's dumb at this point. It really is stupid at this point to say these things. If this is the man that committed the crime, then show your proof. Period. Whether you have to or not, I don't care. The defense is coming at you with all these things, and there's lies being thrown around, and there's accusations of more lies and more cover-ups and this and that. If you have something, prove it that you have it at this point and shut down the defense and the bullshit if it is. Otherwise, shut up and sit down, take it to trial, and I want to see you prove the man guilty, because it's bullshit anymore, and I'm sick and tired of this. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of being called names and people coming at me because I see things for what they are and I'm saying something about it. 100%. Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Wisdom, on that statement there. I don't see any way, shape, or possibility that they can do this. And if they do, as I've said before, I will eat every damn word I have said it with salt on it, folks. Absolutely. I don't see it happening. That's all I'm saying.
That there's a question for him on the stand. How do you explain that? And he's got the autism, so he's going to be wooden if you believe that that's what he has, and he's going to be inappropriate, and he's going to look at the jury in a way that might scare them, because he's so kind of piercing eyes. They're a little bit dead. I mean, that's all maybe the autism. Never, ever, ever would I put him on the stand.
Delusions of grandeur, crazy thoughts, constant thought of suicide,
It's actually been compared to that, Michelle. I covered the Gainesville Ripper early on in my true crime thing out here. I covered that early on and went through the whole thing, and it's actually been compared to the Gainesville Ripper in a lot of ways. It's got a lot of the same differences. You know what I mean? So very much so. Absolutely. Let me catch up with you guys. I heard that before too, Mr. Girl. I don't remember where I saw or heard that, but I did hear that about the Carmel, Indiana thing.
For no reason, poor social skills, depression, lack of comprehension at sometimes. This just seems like the evidence that you would need to say, what more do you want? Even if this person doesn't take the stand, here are their words.
I search for someone to relate to me. Everyone looks down upon me. No one can relate. And then the last thing here says, being me is this horrible disease that I was given. I mean, I can't imagine if this is what someone is going through, if this is what he was going through.
If you guys pay attention to what we've seen happen, anytime something is dropped, whether it be documents or a hearing or something goes on, and it comes out, and it kind of vows in the direction of the defense and shows somewhat a version of innocence. And people that are watching this flow that direction. Very shortly thereafter that, you will see something come out via MSM that goes right back and jumps on that propaganda train and rides it out to make sure everybody goes back to believing that he's guilty. I've seen this happen for this entire case, okay? And I know you guys have seen it as well. It happens every time people start leaning towards the innocent side. There's something that comes out via mainstream media or whatever it is that takes everybody back or tries to bring everybody back over to the fact that he's guilty. It's been happening through this whole thing. And that is something I've visually seen, period. And people, you can't deny this, okay? I'm just saying.
I mean, that's a lot of stuff to go through. But if he's the one who killed these 4 students, that's no excuse.
Committing some horrible crime, you know, maybe it just seems like it's some kind of a movie to him. Maybe he doesn't even feel like
Jen,
people are
thank
real.
you.
What if I let go? Where would I be? Would I ever come back to reality? I might spiral out of control and lose myself in the void.
I don't think we're seeing the real Kohberger in court. I think the real Kohberger is the guy who went into the void to see what was in there. And now what we're seeing again is the mask, you know, the mask.
Thank you, Michelle. God bless you.
Perceived innocence, the mask of, I didn't do this.
Pretty wild interviews and stuff there, but again, more misinformation, in my opinion, more propaganda. Like I said, oh, you're okay, Nelly, no worries. Well, they could have, Vix, they definitely could have. First, Bill said there was no proof of stalking, then they couldn't connect them via shopping records, etc. Then they went back to stalking. That's what I'm saying. That's what we've seen happen, guys. Make up your mind. Get your shit right. Okay, this is no joke. There's 4 victims out there and 4 families of these victims that deserve real justice. Stop playing games with it, okay, and do it the right damn way. That's the whole problem with this. Because going this direction, the way this is happening, they're not getting justice by any means whatsoever. And I'm just tired of seeing it. Tired of defending myself because of what I'm seeing in black and white, and I speak on it, and then I have to defend myself against it. Sorry, but that's absolute bullshit. All right. Give me a minute here. What's going on with this now? Where did everybody go? Hang on, you guys. Here we are. Oh, Miss Nellie's backstage. Hello, Miss Nellie. How are you?
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
My computer did a complete freeze on me and I couldn't get back in, and I had to go into my Beyond the Pale account, which was missing from my other account. Sorry, I've just been terrified.
It's
Anyway,
okay.
Here
Yeah,
I
get
am.
it.
I am.
It happens all the time.
Oh my God, I hate technical issues.
I know. They're horrible. It happens to me a lot. It really does. So I understand.
I missed a chunk because my computer crashed. But where I left it was this interpretation of his visual snow statements, and it makes my blood boil. He's got autism, obviously.
Yes, ma'am.
This was years ago as a teenager, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was diagnosed on the spectrum when he was young with the dyspraxia and the ASD when he was young. So, and then other things came out as he got older. So, yes, absolutely.
So, I look back at myself when I was a teenager. I felt nothing really of substance for my family or my parents around me. All I wanted was to live my own life. I didn't want hugs, and I had hugs and kisses off my mum when I was a kid and embraced them. But when I was a teenager, I walked 6 feet ahead of them if we had to go to town together. You know, it was like, go
So did
away
I.
from me, go away. You know, you're just embarrassing me. I didn't feel that love until probably my late 20s again.
Yeah. I was like I said, I loved my parents. Don't get me wrong. You know, if something would have happened, I know that was in there, but to be bothered with them and like I said, I had the same type feelings when I was 16 years old about things. I wrote music and I wrote song lyrics that were dark and deep like that, and I didn't turn out that way. That's a horrible reference to use for that.
I was surprised at Bob from Defense Diaries when he thought Koberger might be guilty, and I think it was Ali who said why, and it was this. And I thought, God help us all then, because, you know, I listened to The Cure, I listened to the saddest songs out there. It could even be about the way a boy looked at me, and I tell you now, I felt worthless. I felt unattractive because you're trying to live up to expectations. You've got other things going on in your head.
100%.
That was without a diagnosis of autism, you know, and it makes my blood boil that people are just saying this 15-year-old kid is wondering what's happening to his feelings.
That's right.
He's a teenager.
Exactly. Well, and you just brought something up that really makes a big point with me. I've been a musician since I was 10 years old. I used to listen to The Cure and the Circle Jerks and the Sex Pistols and the Dead Milkmen and all that punk music from the UK. Okay. So I know you've heard of a lot of it. And a lot of it is about the darkness inside you and things like that and just being miserable. Punk in itself, punk music was about that whole persona. Okay. And it makes you bring that out of you. You want to be that angry person. You don't want to be bothered by life and your parents and have any emotions and all that, until I became a parent myself and grew up. Okay. And that happens to lots of people. Okay. Lots and lots of people. We all go through things in our teenage years that we would never imagine thinking about as adults. And that doesn't make you a murderer by any means whatsoever. And I hate that people are using that. So,
and why did these bands sell so many records? Because they spoke to so many of us. You know, it's that age where you are questioning everything around you.
I mean, yes, for instance, I took and made out of metal. Okay. It's gone now because I covered it up with a tattoo, but I made out of metal an anarchy sign. Thank you to the Sex Pistols. And I burned it into my arm and it's 16 years old.
Self-harm.
Exactly. And there it is, guys. You know, and then, you know, as I'm 50 years old going, why the hell did I do that? You know what I'm saying? I get it now, but it's just, that's what it was all about back then. And so even for even in his time, it's what it's all about, is to find yourself. So in my opinion, he did. He found who he wanted to be. He went to DeSales and he got, a PhD in criminology. I mean, to go from that to this says a whole hell of a lot to me. Okay. And he overcame a lot. He overcame a drug addiction. He overcame being overweight. He overcame these other things and is still going forward. And you still want to hold him down and say he's a murderer because of this. I don't believe in that. Sorry.
And also, you know, when we're kids and teenagers, if that one person you've got a crush on doesn't like you back, you know, or somebody makes a comment about your appearance. I still remember the negative comments I had about my appearance. And, you know, I'm studying to be a counselor right now. And a big thing that we're learning about is a thing called conditions of worth. And they start in our childhood. And it could be anything from what your parents want you to be, whether it's, in my day, it was magazines and films, and you had to be this kind of woman, you had to be this. And one guy you fancy mocks you, you're going to feel ugly for a long time and not worthy. And I've spent a big chunk of my life feeling unworthy of this, unworthy of that. And it is so common that we're all studying it. And we take Brian Koberger, who had these issues growing up, probably wondering why girls didn't find him attractive, why he couldn't interact socially, why he didn't love his mum and dad anymore much at 15. I didn't. My parents were just a pain in the ass when I was 15. I didn't care.
Yes.
It changed. It changed again when my hormones changed, It's just shocking that the press is going into this 15-year-old boy who had these questions, and he was creative enough to write them down.
That's the whole point right there. Absolutely, yes, it is. And that's what it's all about. Soldiers of Death, yes, I listened to them, as well as MOD and all of them. Cap. I was a huge skateboarder, punk. I was big time into all that. So, and that whole lifestyle, okay, what Sid Vicious stood for. I padlocked a chain around my neck, you guys, and like I said, I burned an emblem into my arm and cut myself with a razor, because that's what Sid Vicious stood for. It was anarchy and craziness and bullshit. And I hate life, and I hate myself, and nobody loves me, and if they do, who cares? Fuck it all, and it's bullocks and all that. You know what I mean? So
absolutely, they've made films about all of this stuff, and people think he's a weirdo. He's not. He's one of us. He's just like,
he's a human being. He's a human being, right? Emotions are a joke. Not everybody feels in the same way. I get it.
Yeah.
But some people are different. Some people have different outlooks on things. I was trying to rebel. My parents were good parents. Okay. They were there. They did what they were supposed to do. They took care of me. My mother was very strict, which is probably why I rebelled like I did.
Same.
Okay. And she did it to save me. And I'm grateful that she did at that point, because God knows where I would have went with my mindset at that time. And I would write those lyrics in the songs that I wrote. I hate life, and this and that, and I'm going to die. I'm just all stupid things like that. And I thought that I was important for doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Never one time did I think of taking somebody's life, ever, not including my own. Well, that's maybe a little bit with myself, but back then I would have never thought that. I was just trying to be what I was, what my lifestyle was at that time. Okay. Now he, in my opinion, probably his emotions got the best of him, because, a lot of kids don't tell their parents that. They don't want to bother with their parents, because his mother was a teacher, for God's sakes. If my mother was a teacher, oh my God, no way. Okay. And they want to be, a certain way with their kids, just as much as we do now. And you want your kids to be okay, but not all kids tell their parents these things. There's that.
If my mum, bless her soul, my mum and dad have passed away, but if they knew what I'd got up to,
thank you.
When I left home, my mum would have had a heart attack if she knew the partying I did, the rebellion. I hit rebellion, when I left home.
Right.
And I'm actually lucky to be here, to be honest.
Yep.
But it's like there's something about being teenager to early 20s where you're only going to listen to the saddest music.
Right.
You feel like you've lived this kind of angsty life of heartache, and nothing anyone says can take that away from you. It's truly bizarre.
Well, you think that you're cool because you're being that person, or you're in, you know what I mean? So, and that's what it was about. So, him, who knows what his thought process was behind it. But like you said earlier, at least he was intelligent enough to write it down and to bring notice to himself of it. Okay. That says a lot to me. So,
and the other thing, Dago, about these conditions of worth, and a big part of it is peers and mainstream media. And I didn't have social media in my day, but Brian was but I'm talking about when he was a teenager, was probably extra tall, kind of lanky, big nose, fuzzy hair.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have a lot of rejections.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so many people go through that. And that does not mean he's a killer. It means he was struggling with it. That's all. I don't believe he's an incel. I'm not saying he's done the deed or anything, but I don't see him as an angry person. That's just my interpretation of things.
I don't either.
I genuinely, purely speculation, do not see him as envying Maddie and Kaylee and all. I don't think I'm sorry to say it, and this is a slur on the victims. I don't see him as being into that silly, partying, frivolous lifestyle. I think
he was worried about his education. He wasn't worried about that partying. Okay. He didn't even know them to be jealous of their life, of their relationship. That still makes no sense to me. So it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. He doesn't even live that careless lifestyle that they're trying to claim that he was at 16. Like, I was jumping off of garages onto skateboards to see if I could land it without breaking my neck. Okay.
God.
You don't see him doing things at 16 years old like that, because I had no quality of life back then. I can do this and I'll survive everything. We're indestructible. You know what I mean? And he is just voicing his feelings at that moment and trying to deal with it and get through it. That doesn't make him a murderer, period. And it's ridiculous that they're doing that.
Absolutely. And the other thing I really want to bring up is I've lived on my own a lot in my life, and now I've hit 52. I realize I actually loved it, but you know, I've got some great friends around me. You know, I've also been a very sociable person. But imagine you're Brian and you don't have a lot of friends because he's autistic.
Right.
What do you do to get out? You drive. And you do. And I've done it so much in my life. I've been like, you know what? I don't really want to mix with anyone today, but I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to play my music and I'm going to drive. And I've done so much of that. Music blaring, driving on my own. It's good for the soul. You don't have to be accepted by anyone. You don't have to speak to anyone, but you're getting out.
You don't have anything to answer to. I used to do that all the time. Roll the windows down.
Yeah.
You know, when there's good weather, blare the music and just drive until I didn't have to, period.
And who are we to judge his sleeping patterns? God, I used to regularly go to sleep, probably until 2 years ago at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I did it too. I would stay up all night sometimes and then sleep the whole day the next day or the day after that if I didn't have responsibilities. So yeah.
I think the biggest mistake we can make in life, whether it's a murder case or just in life, is project what we would do onto someone else.
Right.
So, you know, it's like so much of the public are saying, what? So he just happens to drive around at night. Well, guess what? If you've got insomnia and you've got OCD and you've got autism and you're wide awake, you're telling him he has to sit in his flat. Why?
That's what I'm saying. My ADHD used to keep me up late and I would have to do something to tire myself out, wear myself down. I would go for bike rides, car rides, walks, everything. You know what I mean? You got to do something. And everybody has their own thing. And if he doesn't have a whole lot of friends to go hang out with or do anything with, that's what he does.
Yeah.
It doesn't make him a murderer.
No. It's sad that I truly believe this, and this is just my opinion. I truly believe that the prosecution are feeding things out to the public and to mainstream media to go with this because they don't have anything else. They really don't.
I do agree. At this point, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree, Nellie. I really do.
They're trying to taint a jury pool, and they always have been.
Yep.
And, you know, when you look at Coffin Dapper and Bamfield and all of those, and oh God, Vinny, Court TV, and Dateline. I mean, Dateline, this is really interesting. This came up in my head because I did a mainstream media video, well, probably 18 months ago now. And I remembered when it came out that Koberger had allegedly bought a K-bar in Pennsylvania, he says, Keith, whatever his name is, said
Yeah.
Koberger and that knife traveled from Pennsylvania to Moscow. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, what an assumption. What, he traveled with the knife?
Right.
And now I think, you know what, you were fed. You knew that he bought a knife in Pennsylvania. He clearly states, as a fact, Koberger and that knife traveled from Pennsylvania to Washington. And there's only one explanation for that, as far as I'm concerned, is that it was leaked. Completely leaked. And you've got Coffindaffer and all going on about, I mean, what's happened to these IDs he had in a box that Coffindaffer was going on about?
There was nothing to them whatsoever. Nothing.
Yeah. And I truly believe law enforcement have drip fed mainstream media. It's a known fact that cops and mainstream media talk regularly, and they've drip fed what they want out there. And for Bill Thompson to stand up in that court and say, we all know there wasn't stalking.
And here it is, like I said earlier, Nellie, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's what it is, word for word. Propaganda is communication aimed at influencing or persuading an audience to further a specific agenda.
Absolutely.
Every bit of what has happened with this, and that's why we have seen the things and heard the things that we have with this. Over a period of time, it has just gotten progressively worse. That's all there is to it. It often involves selectively presenting facts or using loaded language to elicit emotional responses rather than rational ones. Propaganda can take many forms, including posters, videos, texts, and is characterized by its deliberate manipulation of information to shape public opinion. Bingo.
Absolutely. And do you remember Coffindaffer stating that she thought, and it was just her hunch, that he had planned this before moving to Washington? She said it on an interview. She said, I think it's possible that he had those victims in his sights, and that is why he went to what she tried to make out he went to that university deliberately. I swear, as I'm sitting here, she got a leak that he'd bought a K-bar in Pennsylvania.
Once again, trying to call it a premeditated act. She's a complete jackass, in my opinion. I'm sorry.
She's an absolute disgrace. But I do think that she knew he'd bought a K-bar.
Oh, I believe somebody told her something. Yeah,
and then she put that theory together that actually I think he planned this in advance.
Sure,
and
and he bought the knife and he bought the mask a year almost before he moved there with no targets, premeditated this, and then found his targets. I just don't. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
Well, have they found any link to the victims on any computers of his?
Nothing. Nowhere, nothing, anywhere whatsoever, Nellie. Nothing.
Exactly. And it's really upsetting that everything, in my opinion, about this case is assumptions. And okay, we've got the DNA on the knife sheath, but as I've probably ranted about it before, I have so many questions about that. You know, they couldn't decide where it was found, for a start, under her or next to her. And how I asked this, I know, in your last show that I was on. Nobody has come forward, because I want somebody who knows this, is how I've Googled a certain amount and researched a certain amount. If you've got a tiny speck of trace DNA on brass, it's going to degrade very quickly.
We did a whole show on that a year and a half ago, Nellie, about how that happens. Yes, it does. Absolutely.
So we've got this DNA going from one lab to Othram. So each time it is tested, it degrades.
Well, here's
being on brass.
Well, what we were told, though, here's the other part of that, though, Nellie, that really got me angry. They didn't even send that sheath. They sent a buccal swab of a swab from the sheath.
Oh my God.
The sheath was never sent anywhere. Okay. They sent a sample of DNA that they swabbed, they said, from the snap button. So I don't believe any of that now. Okay.
No, I don't.
None of it at all.
And also, so it went to 3 labs in total. You've got to have proof of how it was stored and how it was sent for a start. So how was it preserved? So you've got this minute speck of DNA that was tested once. I saw, and I've tried to look for it, and I will say I can't find the receipts. I can only find the receipts on Reddit. Someone had screenshot ISP labs that says with trace DNA, they use the whole sample to get the most accurate results. And I saw that as a screenshot only on Reddit. But I did further investigation that obviously DNA on brass is going to disintegrate very quickly. So you've got this tiny speck, lab 1. We've got to count on it that they stored that correctly and then sent it correctly to Othram. Then you've got Othram testing it. This spec degrades every time it's tested. So was there even anything left when it got to Othram? And then it goes from Othram to the FBI. Okay, so it should degrade further, in my opinion, from what I've looked at. So we've got to hope it was stored correctly, whatever was left, if anything, and sent correctly to the FBI. But whoa, it doubles in size by the time it gets to the FBI. If anyone can explain that to me, there might be a really scientific reason as to how they can double a single tiny trace of trace DNA, how they can double it, but I've yet to find it.
It doesn't make any sense, does it, at all?
No.
None. It does. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's just one more piece of this ridiculous puzzle that they have thrown at us, whether it's our business or not. To know it, they've made it our business. Because I think they've done that on purpose to try again to see him as a guilty person, and it's not working with the critical thinkers out there that want to look at everything for what it is and say, hey, what's going on here for real? You know what I mean?
Can you look at Yvonne Poole's comment there, Dago? She says, there you go, Yvonne did it. I took a screenshot of that from the ISP lab. Is stated in the case of touch DNA, the entire sample is consumed to create an ST. That is exactly what I saw, Yvonne.
So I saw the same thing, yes.
So how did it move to Othram, and how from Othram did it double in size by the FBI? And what worries me, Dago, is that the defense are claiming they're going for the it was planted. They should be bringing this up. Because if I was on the jury and they said, you know, we think a perpetrator planted this knife sheath. In my opinion, if anyone planted it, it was law enforcement, but that's just my opinion.
Agreed.
But, you know, I just think they surely need to fight it that way. I think.
Agreed. I do agree. Not to interrupt, guys. I guess there was a school shooting in Dallas at a high school.
No.
Again, we have another one. Heavy police presence on scene. This is now live, and this 21 minutes ago they started live with this. So I don't know any details on it as of yet, but it's there. But yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that, Nelly. It doesn't make any sense. And if anything, based on what we've seen, as hard as it is to take to heart, law enforcement seems to be the most attributable people involved in this, in a situation like that. So that's a damn shame, but what else do we have to look at? Okay. So I do agree with you. Yeah, guys, this is the high school that this happened at. I don't know any more details about how many were shot. Let me see.
Was this today?
This has just happened. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hold on, bear with me. I'm trying to see if there's another one that's more active. Wait a minute here. Every damn day, you guys, we see something like this. Hang on. Well, wow. They had a police chase in Texas too. I know there's one going in LA right now, but yeah, there was some bullying from what Willie explained when he was in school because he was overweight and things like that. But it'll make you feel a certain type of way. I was bullied. I never wanted to kill anybody, but I was bullied. 17-year-old male shot in the leg. Okay. Well, hopefully there's only a person that's been shot. And I hope he's okay. But that's now that they're doing. Does anybody know if they got the shooter? I don't have any live reports of hold on. Reports of shooting, multiple emergency services at Wilmer Hutchins High School following reports of gunshots. I don't see any more about it right this moment. This is so sad. It's like every other day now, if not every day. It's disgusting to me. Enough is damn enough already.
I think they need to start doing searches every morning on pupils going into school. And then, I mean, I don't know how it is in the States, but my son's school, you have to stand behind like a big bullet. I assume it's bulletproof, but a huge screen before you get access to the school. You can't get in any other way.
We have our schools. A lot of our schools have metal detectors now.
Yeah.
The school that I went to definitely had metal detectors. My son's now has metal detectors as well.
See, in the UK, they don't, and we've got stabbings.
Oh yeah.
Kids are going in with knives, and I don't think they're doing anything like metal detection.
Well, it's a deal. It's a big deal here because of all this stuff. Yeah, I don't see anything else on it other than that. And it's just showing kids being evacuated by SWAT, it looks like, with their hands up, coming out. All we can do is pray for it once again and hope that it's got to stop sooner or later. Yeah, most of the country schools don't have them. Now, we do out here, but we're also the resource officers for our schools are through the county, so there's more funding for that, and they brought them in themselves. So, but the rural schools don't. A lot of them don't have it. Oh shoot, it's like past the time. No, I agree, Nelly. You have some very good points to make about that stuff that you were just stating. And we've been talking about a lot of it lately as to why it goes down, why it happens, what it's about, and what the whole purpose is behind it. And it's very sad. Because in my opinion, Brian Koberger has not had a chance whatsoever to show anything of himself to the world. It's all been showed for him, and it's all bad.
Yeah.
So
can you imagine if any of us were accused of what he's accused of and what would come out? Can you even imagine what our Google searches would have? I Google regularly about all sorts of things to do with murders and killers, and
I know.
And all they'd have to do is look at my Google search, and
every one of us, yeah, every
or
one
an
of us.
argument I had with an ex, or they just bring anything out. And what's upset me most in this case is looking at the general public and how they react to what they're fed.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will honestly say that there are very few guilters that I've come across that don't resort to insults. And I just think, well, you've lost me at what you've just insulted me with. If you put forward an argument to me that's intelligent, I'll listen. But the minute you start calling me a dumbass because I question what's being put in front of me, you've lost it. And
we're done talking. Exactly.
Yeah, it's shocking to me.
And that's a fact. Amor just said something too, that the guilters in this case have no compassion. They have no understanding of everything. They don't want to hear it either. That's the sad part. They don't want to see things in black and other than in black and white. They don't want to see any color to it at all. And that's where the problem lies. There's so much more to this than just black and white, cut and dry. And that's a big problem. So
the other thing that shocks me, Dago, is that, you know, so we've got this balaclava, we've got this bushy eyebrow thing, we've got this K-bar thing. Most of what law enforcement have gone on is Dylan and Bethany's statements, especially Dylan's, from what I can imagine. So there they are saying he bought a balaclava, but all they've got is what Dylan told them, and she says herself she's no fit witness, and it's all, nobody in mainstream media is questioning whether even this balaclava, let alone the fact they were really popular at the time, is even worthy of anything.
Well, not to mention he was a jogger, Nelly, and he would jog in the wintertime as well, and that's the perfect thing to wear to keep you warm. So
he bought it in January. He bought it in January in Pennsylvania, and he's a jogger. And the other thing that's driven me mad is that they're saying, well, you know, they're saying that he can't coordinate, you know, he's got this dyspraxia, blah, 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 but he can run. Well, guess what? Running is very different to coordination.
Yes, it doesn't have anything to do with your hand and speed technology
It's got
or any
nothing
of that.
to do with it. Nothing to do with it.
Absolutely. And every time we say something, they have an excuse and an answer for it. And it's gotten ridiculous. I agree. When someone is unable to prevail in a discussion using logical arguments and rational discourse, they resort to personal attacks and slander. Amen to that, Eddie. Amen.
Yeah, absolutely, Eddie.
Well, guys, I hate to cut this short, but I got some stuff I have to go do. We've been here. I was only supposed to be here 3 hours, and I'm a half hour past it. And it's wonderful for you to join me, Nelly. I really appreciate it. Anytime
Thank you.
It's always an honor to have you. I appreciate you. And hopefully next time I do it, you'll be able to join me too if you're here. But it's always good conversation. It always brings, in my opinion, more of real facts to the surface about the situation than what we're been told and what we're supposed to be talking about, what they want us to be talking about. So when it comes to this, especially, you know, it's always a good conversation. So I very much appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, David. Have a great day, guys.
You too, Nelly, and we'll see you soon.
Oh, you will. Thank you very much. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, everybody else, thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you guys got something out of this show, and I'm hoping to see you guys later on for sure. So, like I said, with this situation, we need to keep this Wilmer Hutchins High School and the people involved in our thoughts and prayers, and hope that there is very little damage done here, and so on and so forth if we can. I appreciate you guys so very much for being here. Don't forget to love yourselves, love each other, and don't change nothing. You guys are the beautiful people, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye-bye, guys.
Life's a journey. Let's make it. We want me to shine. Together we share. Our hearts are intertwined. Each time you choose, we're dancing in sync. With every story told, just let your soul think. A little laughter, some love, we're flying high. As we wrap up this episode, it's not goodbye. News on the airwaves, spreading joy and cheer. Thanks for being with us, we'll see you right here. Kick back, take a breath, leave your worries behind. This podcast is magic, a treasure you'll find. With every moment shared, we light up the way. Join us next time for more laughs and play. A little laughter, some love, we're flying high. As we wrap up this episode, it's not goodbye. News on the airwaves, spreading joy and cheer. Thanks for being with us, we'll see you right here. Kick back, take take a breath, leave your worries behind. This podcast is magic, a treasure you'll find. With every moment shared, we light up the way. Join us next time for more laughs and play. So hit that subscribe, keep the vibe alive. We're riding this wave and it's set to thrive. With smiles all around, let's seize the day. In this podcast family, worries drift away. A little laughter, some love, we're flying high. As we wrap up this episode, it's not goodbye. News on the airwaves, spreading joy and cheer. Thanks for being with us, we'll see you right here. So gather round friends, it's time to reflect. In this joyful moment, what's next to connect? Let's cherish the laughter, the joy that we spread. Together we'll thrive until our hearts are fed. See you next time with stories anew. Can't wait to share more with all of you. So hit that subscribe, keep the vibe alive. We're riding this wave and it's set to thrive. With smiles all around, let's seize the day. In this podcast family, worries drift away. So hit that subscribe, keep the vibe alive. We're riding this wave and it's set to thrive. With smiles all around, let's seize the day. In this podcast family, worries drift away. So gather round friends, it's time to reflect. In this joyful moment, what's next to connect? Let's cherish the laughter, the joy that we spread. Together we'll thrive until our hearts are fed. See you next time with stories anew. Can't wait to share more with all of you. See you next time with stories anew. Can't wait to share more with all of you.